Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now in session for this regular meeting Tuesday, July 5th. We're going to begin this morning with the prayer and the pledge. If you would, let's please stand. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to be here today. We ask, Lord, that you be with us in our understanding, our discretion. Lord, help our knowledge to be tempered with wisdom, Lord, that we ask you to give us right now. We thank you for every day you give us. Thank you for every resident, citizen of Franklin County. Help us to make our decisions with their interest in mind. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First order of business this morning would be approval of minutes from the last meeting.
So move.
A motion to approve those minutes by Commissioner Ward.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion, Commissioners? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That is unanimous, 5-0. All right, now we have up next payment of the county's bills.
So moved.
Motion to approve that payment by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? That is also a 5-0 vote.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, everyone attending the meeting today. So just a couple of announcements. First, I just want to let everybody know that, and I should have announced this quite a while back, when we changed the format for the agenda, if you, right now, before every meeting starts, I update the agenda to the agenda packet. This is mostly for people attending virtually or downloading stuff. So if you go now and you click the download agenda, that is now the packet, not the agenda. So that includes all of our reports, Aaron, myself, all your department heads. So I should have said this weeks ago. Next, Commissioner, so I hate to sound like the broken record in the room, but we have another long agenda today. As you see ahead of you, coming up next is Warden Connor. After that, Forestry. Not too down from that should be Ginger Coulter from the Sheriff's Department to talk about that DEO grant. And then we have to contend with, we have to talk to Doug Rayner about the contract for a solid waste contract. And then we also have John Collins here to speak on quite a few airport items, things that you guys have been looking forward to for some time. And in addition, we have 2 public hearings that are time certain starting at 10:30. So I just wanted the board to be aware of all these items on the agenda today. And Mr. Chairman, I turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. Up next is Warden Connor from Florida Correctional.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
I brought with me today Sergeant Harris, Sergeant Chisholm, who was my primary outside grounds sergeant in the past. She's retiring, and Sergeant Harris will be taking her place for the foreseeable future. So if anybody ever has any questions about the work squads, he's the one to get a hold of.
Okay.
First thing I want to address is, I know we're not putting out the number of inmates that we were pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, our population across the state was 101,000, 102,000. As of 1 July, total population was 86,000. So we have substantial fewer inmates than what we had pre-COVID. Of that 82,000, 9,899 are in our private facilities, which do not come out and do work outside. They do have substantial minimum community custody inmates, and we pull from them every chance we get to boost our numbers. Across the region, you know, this shortage is it's not just Franklin. This is a statewide shortage. Just in our region, up here in Region 1 with the 15 facilities, we're short 999 inmates on our outside squads. We track this every month. We talk about it every month. Fact is, we just don't have the inmates that we had pre-COVID. want to assure you guys that I send out every inmate that I can send out. We do have minimum and community custody inmates at our facility that do not come out the gate. They can be disqualified for medical reasons or other reasons that still allow them to go to work release, to where if I boost their custody because they can't come outside, they're never going to get to work release. And that's not right to do for the inmate. If we have an inmate that has custody, which means he's eligible to come out the gate, he has nothing that restricts him medically, but yet he's a gang member or he has prior charges of introducing contraband through our gates, bringing in drugs, cell phones, that type of thing, I have to personally sign off on all those. I will not put an inmate in the community that I think would jeopardize the safety of either our community residents or my facility, the staff at the facility. I signed off on like 6 of them last week. That's not saying I let 6 of them out the gate. 4 of them I let out the gate, 2 of them I did not let out the gate. One was just busted at another facility about the middle of May for bringing in a bomb of tobacco. He had it in an area that you wouldn't find it pat searching him. Those individuals I do not want in the community. I'm sure you guys don't want in the community. But rest assured, I put out every one that I can. I heard this morning that the Gulf is putting out more inmates than what Franklin is. As of the end of May, Gulf was short 95 or 94 inmates. We were short 75. So we have a lower shortage. Now, how many squads they have, I couldn't tell you, but they're short more inmates than what we are. With the contracts that we have, you know, we've got City of Carabel, we've got City of Appalachia, we've got the road department, we got landfill, we've got numerous entities that we send these inmates out to. And what we try to do is split them up. That I don't want to leave nobody out. I can't leave City of Carabel out because City of Appalachia wants more inmates. I hope y'all understand that.
Yes.
I don't want to leave anybody out. One of the things that we got charged with in a conference call last week is saving fuel. Road department, are they here today?
Yes, Howard's online. Yes.
He's online.
How many vehicles do you send out to my facility?
Hey, Howard, if you're available.
Okay, I know he sends multiple vehicles out.
Is it-
Well, they all go
There
through the,
There you
Go ahead, Michael.
The warden was asking how many vehicles do you guys send out on a regular?
I was sending out 6 vehicles, but I cut them 6 vehicles down to 3.
how many vehicles are you sending out to the institution to pick up inmates?
It was 6 vehicles, but the past month it's been 3 vehicles.
Would it help you just to send one vehicle to pick up all your inmates?
Well, yeah, we've been getting, I think we had 10 this morning. They're supposed to be picking them all up.
Yeah. But that's gonna save fuel costs on y'all's part.
Yes.
Yeah.
We transport all across the state, so we're trying to figure out a system to better save our fuel. Does anybody have any questions about the work squads?
I don't have a question, I just want to make a couple of comments. I think you covered very well what's actually going on. And the thing was, with us, what I understood with the board, we just didn't understand. We thought that we had to have, if we're gonna have 6 work squads, we had to have 6 vehicles show up. There was just some misunderstandings.
Okay.
And I will say this, for myself, you know, at the end of the day, I know we have work to do, and I know Franklin County is used to having some inmate labor to help to do things. That's not a bad thing. But it's also not a bad thing if you have less people in your prisons.
Right.
That's actually a good thing.
Right.
That's not a bad thing.
Right.
So, I mean, I see both sides of the issue. So if you can only send out what you don't have, I think knowing that we can possibly send one vehicle
Yes.
to get all the inmates is gonna help us in what we're doing and what we're trying to, because we're, same as you, we're using taxpayer dollars and trying to get the most we can for what we're doing.
Right.
So I appreciate you being here this morning, kind of explaining maybe some of the questions that we had, because the end of the day, without an explanation, we're just going to continue to have questions. So,
Now, you guys are aware of our, what draws some of our qualified inmates away is we have the short sentence institutions.
yes,
Those are for inmates, it's their first conviction. We're not throwing them to the wolves anymore.
Right.
You know, we used to take that first-time offender in our system
yep,
and put him with the worst of the worst. They're keeping them at our reception centers now, putting them through the short sentence program in the hopes that they do not come back.
right,
That takes some from us. We do have incentivized prisons also now. There's not many of them and they're not full, but that attracts those inmates also.
right,
I can't fill my classrooms. Now, school takes precedence over work. If they don't have a diploma, if they don't have an education, we give them the opportunity to get that education. It's not mandatory, but they get that opportunity. That trumps work squads. I can't keep my classrooms full because I'm not getting the inmates. So it's a bad situation all the way around. One of the things I do want to bring up is end of September, first part of October, I want to do a re-entry exercise out of my facility, and I'd like all of y'all to come. What it shows is the problems inmates have when they are released. You set up the room, Mr. Jones, you'll get a folder, and they'll tell you that you was in prison for this long. This is how many forms of ID you have. We all know you have to have 3. You have to have that driver's license or ID. You have to have a birth certificate and a social security card. Well, when I went through that exercise, all I had was a social security card. So I had to get those 2 forms of ID, and it was frustrating. And I wound up reoffending and going back to prison. It's kind of extreme the way it's set up, but it really shows you the frustrations that some of these inmates have when they're released. If they don't have that family support out there, if they don't have the community support out there. So I'm going to ask you guys to come out and take part in it, and any of the stakeholders we have in the area, just to show the frustration level. So
do you know when that's going to be yet?
we'll have it out of the institution in my training building.
Yep, well,
But as
please-
soon as I finalize a date, I'll get it to you guys, and
Yeah, just get it to Mr. Morone, he'll get it to all of us.
we'll do.
That would be great.
Anytime you guys have any questions, feel free to call me, all right?
Do any commissioners have any questions this
Just
morning?
one.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm glad you're looking out for the community, so we got problems, and we don't need to add no more, like you said.
Right.
Send, if you ain't got the good one to send out, if you don't have the good one we don't want, we'll be okay, we'll just have to get by.
We beg for them on a regular basis, but you got 50 institutions across the state doing the same thing, so.
That was just, one more question. I heard you say that number dropped, pre-COVID dropped down from a high to a low.
Right. Now, our
Can I-
population is coming back up,
Yeah.
but right now it's still, 20, 30,000 less than what we had pre-COVID.
I just wanna, if you can, I don't know whether you can answer this or not. Is that cause of COVID death or release?
Initially, it was, we weren't accepting inmates from the county, and when, in the height of COVID, I think we're back to normal reception process now, but I can get that information and get it to you and give you the hard numbers.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Bolt, you have a question?
Just a point of information and curiosity. I realize this question is related to two different institutions, but can our sheriff detail of inmates amend what we need in the way of inmates and complement more numbers? Is our sheriff bringing in inmates that can be released to help work in the field as well?
Well, I
I'm
don't know
always
if there's anybody here that can answer that this morning, but I will tell you the sheriff does have some inmates that they do a detail with, but it's not in conjunction with what the state's doing, or even in conjunction with our work squads. It's a completely separate work squad as
Yes.
far as I understand.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have to keep the county and the state inmates separated. They couldn't work hand in hand.
That's it.
Face made parade.
Anyone else this morning?
I got a couple questions.
Go ahead, sir.
A couple statements. Anyway, been getting a lot of
social media blowback about the ditches needing weed eating, and when I try to explain to them issues we're having as the ordinance is generously explained, getting the information out to the public is kind of hard because they don't understand it. And the higher these ditches get with overgrowth, the harder it's going to be to clean them up. It's going to take you 2 or 3 times as long to weed eat a ditch when it's 4 foot high than it is when it's 6 or 8 inches or a foot high. So that's, in the rains we've been getting, it's been causing a lot of that extra growth, rain and then sunshine. But I do appreciate you being here today, and I try to explain to some of the people that you were coming today so we could get some clarification as to exactly what's going on. But when we get to a point where we can, we definitely need to improve our work squads where we can get this work done, because we're catching it from the general constituency that don't understand, exactly what's going on. I try to explain it to them. I'm glad you're here today to put that out where everybody can see it on TV and Zoom and everything else to really understand what is complicating the matters of trying to keep these ditches. We can pretty much keep the grass cut. When it comes down to the man hours of weed eating, we just don't have the staff to do that either.
Right.
And 4 inmates can do a lot more than 1 county employee. And as hot as it is, you need that extra help. So anything you can do to help us, we appreciate it. And I do appreciate you coming this morning.
Yes, sir.
I will say this, what it's going to do for us, Warden, it's not really you guys. We're going to have to either decide whether we're going to hire some more people or if we're going to take a different approach to the way we deploy our work squads. But that's something we have to do. But it is good to know that we're getting what we can get, and it's good for the public to know. And we're also getting those that are least likely to have issues once they get outside the gate. They're there to help with the community, they're there to help with the county, and it's not going to be an issue for us or for you. So those are all good things.
I wish I had a crystal ball and tell you it's going to get better before it gets worse. But
Yes, sir. Well, unfortunately, a lot of times it gets worse before it gets better, but that's just the nature of life, isn't it?
But we'll keep plugging away, trying to
Yes,
get
sir.
get
Thank
them.
you for being here this morning, sir.
Anytime, sir.
And
Thank
you as well.
Thank you.
Yep, yep. Mr. Malone, we're going to public comments. You said there was no public comment.
Forestry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. All right.
Yep.
Mr. Clint Davis, Forestry. Maybe I need to put these back on.
And Alex, you can begin sharing whenever. You're good to go. Thank you, Warden.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak before the board today on an issue that we're facing across all of Franklin County with this southern pine beetle outbreak. I'll take a quick second just to introduce my team. This is Alex Gravonsky, forester with Tatesville State Forest, and Genevieve Prentice, forester with Tatesville State Forest. Just a quick side note about Genevieve. As you guys know, we give 15% of our proceeds to the school board every year, and Genevieve was the first recipient of that scholarship that the school board put together in conjunction with us to the University of Florida. She graduated, come to work in May, and so we're really excited that that scholarship went through, and the fruits of that the school board put together is here with us now. So excited about that. So Genevieve has our slideshow up. We just want to do an overview of the active outbreaks and required management in Franklin County. It's so much more than just McIntyre Road access. This is affecting, the whole county, across the county. So the first outbreaks in Franklin County, this is since around 2004, we started flights in Franklin County to monitor for southern pine beetle outbreaks, and this is the first outbreak that we've recorded since we've started that. This is a map showing our confirmed areas of southern pine beetle outbreak. This is the Womack Creek and Crooked River tracts. The northern area across the river is Womack Creek, and the southern area is the Crooked River tract. This was what was confirmed as of early last week when we was putting the slideshow together, but since then we did another flight and have found other sites that we've got to get out and ground truth and confirm that it is southern pine beetle outbreak. So what are southern pine beetles? Southern pine beetles are a native beetle that feed on dying trees. Under the right conditions, populations of southern pine beetle can grow large enough to infest healthy trees. Infestations cause pine trees to die within 6 weeks, and there is no treatment available to save infested trees. Southern pine outbreaks can spread over 50 feet a day, and southern pine beetles are recognized as the largest threat to the forest in Florida. Back to this map here of our confirmed areas. We're going to look quickly at the Thompson property. It's a private property in the northern area of Womack Creek. It's the #1 up there. That was the first area that we found, and we're going to use it just real quick to just show how southern pine beetle can spread. So this was the original picture of when we found the outbreak on June 7th. It's originally infested was 2.7 acres of property. And then as we move on to the next slide, you can see that within 10 days of discovery, infestation had already grown to 4.7 acres. So it nearly doubled in just 2 days. It's like a wildfire, you know, whenever these things get going. This is a picture that shows that side by side from June 9th to June 23rd, and you can see how much growth it is. And if you can notice around the outsides and to the right of the picture on the June 23rd, how the trees are yellow around the outsides and the perimeters, that's the where it's spreading and growing. And those trees are already infested, and then the green trees that's just right out of that, you can't see that they're infested, but if you get there on the ground, even those green trees, you'll see the pitch tubes and the bugs are already in them. But kind of just, it's real similar to how wildfire spreads, you know, it just spreads outward, and as it grows, instead of just doubling, the longer it is, it can triple and quadruple, you know, as it continues to grow. So these are some more outbreaks on Tate Cell. This is the outbreak 3's the second place we found in the Womack Creek area, not too far from the first outbreak. And then outbreak 11 is the outbreak that's on McIntyre Road. Correct? That's the one that's on the riverside of McIntyre Road. And then these are just pictures of some of the other outbreaks that we have on Tate Cell Forest. So the risk of southern pine beetle. The southern pine beetle is one of the most economically devastating forest pests in the southern United States. The last major southern pine beetle outbreak in Florida between 1999 and 2002 caused an estimated $59 million in timber losses on over 24,000 acres. So we have 232,000 acres of forested land in Franklin County. So if we were not to jump in and really put forth the effort to stop the spread of the southern pine beetle, we have 232,000 acres at risk. If you multiply out, that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of substantial loss that we could face across Franklin County. Southern pine beetle outbreaks leave a path of dead trees that will greatly increase the potential for wildfire. As many of you know, we've had some devastating wildfires in Franklin County in the recent years, and this southern pine beetle would cause large dead and dying fuels that would increase that fire potential. So southern pine beetle can infest both rural and urban areas and are also known to attack yard trees. The southern pine beetle management and mitigation. So there's no approved chemical treatments of southern pine beetles. The only option for stopping the southern pine beetles is to clear cut a 200-foot buffer area around each outbreak and thin any surrounding timber. This point said there were currently 12 confirmed. There is still 12 confirmed, but we have found several more possible southern pine beetle outbreak spots that we're in the process of confirming this week. Every flight we're finding more and more. It just takes us time because, like you guys, we have limited resources. It takes us time to get out and ground truth that and make sure that it is southern pine beetle. So each outbreak and location of the southern pine beetle will need to be contained to stop the spread. The best way to protect the forest from southern pine beetle is by keeping it well thinned and within the recommended prescribed fire rotation. So pre-southern pine beetle, the best way to protect our forests is to thin and to prescribe fire. So we're doing a good job at the prescribed fire and the thinning, and we'll continue to do that to hopefully in the future not have to fight the southern pine beetle. This next slide is just a rundown on the mechanical control treatment of southern pine beetles. It's one of the oldest SPB control tactics. It continues to be the most recommended approach for suppressing southern pine beetle infestations. The harvest of the beetle affected trees reduces the economic loss, and the SPB broods within the trees are removed and eliminated at the mill if infested logs are promptly processed. So if we get in there and move quickly, the trees that are infected won't be a total loss. We're not going to get what we would normally get for the price, but it won't be a total loss. We get 25% of the normal cost, so we're not, we're not completely at a loss. But if it was to spread beyond what we could control, then that would be a total loss, because the mills couldn't take it and the loggers wouldn't be available to keep up with it. Success in salvage control depends on removing all pines with fresh attacks and those with developing beetle broods. The best insurance is cutting a buffer strip of the uninfested green pines around the active head. If you see the picture here, it really looks like how a control burn or how a wildfire would spread. Shows the direction of travel on that buffer strip and the active southern pine beetles, and that would be the way to treat it. So currently on Tate Sale, we have 103 acres that we need to salvage cut that's been infested, and we've identified those areas to the north of the river up there are what we already have loggers on in the Womack Creek area, and then down to the south there is the Crooked River area along McIntyre that we would need to get into and harvest. Next slide, please. So this is an up-close map of the area in McIntyre that needs harvesting, and as you can see, everything's north of the McIntyre Road between McIntyre and the river, so there's no more access roads to get to that timber other than using McIntyre Road.
Okay.
We'll move to the next slide. So this is a picture that was taken in Texas not too long ago of southern pine beetle that was left untreated. And you can see the devastating effects that it could cause the county forestry. This concludes our slideshow, but we'd love to answer any questions that you guys have.
Commissioner, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for being here today. This has been a good education.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't have had it had you not been here. Thanks for your help, and congratulations to you for being involved. I would, what I'm hearing is that you're trying to eliminate the food source, essentially, for this beetle. Is that correct? Is that the idea?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Alex Skowronski, Senior Forester, like Clint had mentioned. We're not necessarily trying to eliminate the food source, we're just trying to stop the spread.
Yeah. When you,
And by doing so, that eliminates, like Clint was talking about, puts a buffer around it, so that does eliminate the spread or the food source.
Yeah.
So does the beetle take over a dying or diseased tree, and that's how it gains superiority? And you're trying to really get rid of all the diseased trees with a healthy buffer.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Basically, what it comes to a stress tree, it could be a lightning strike tree, any sort of stress tree.
Stress tree.
And then what will tend to happen is the beetles overwhelm the natural defense of the pine tree, which would be the sap, the pitch. So what it does is they keep reproducing and then spreading and spreading, and they overwhelm healthy trees after they've attacked that main dead tree or that dying tree.
I see.
Yes, sir. And like Clint was mentioning, so what you try to do is you try to get in there before these trees are no longer viable. Because what tends to happen is if we were to let this go, or if the private property was to let this go, they would have to come in and then pay money to remove those trees or remove that fuel source for potential wildfire risk or, mitigation. So you try to get ahead of it and try to get some economic value from it as well.
Right.
But the only, as you saw in the scientific papers, the only way to do it is to, like you said, cut out the healthy trees surrounding it and then mitigate by thinning. Because what tends to happen is they really like these really dense pines or pines and lines, have not been thinned, which was the case for the Thompson property here, unfortunately.
So earlier in one presentation, I think on Zoom, you had mentioned that there is some private property proximal to McIntyre Road project. How are you intervening on that private property?
If
Do you have
Genevieve
some
can pull the
authority
map
to
back
do
up
that?
and we can show you.
Okay.
So number 6 and 7 there. Number 11's the place on McIntyre that we're wanting to treat, and number 6 and 7 is on the private property.
I see.
We've talked to one of the private property landowners. Right now, he's just chose to monitor his and see if it continues to grow. The other private landowner hasn't gotten back with us yet. So, we can't, force them to do anything. Number one up on the private property in Womack Creek, they've been very receptive. They already have logging crew on their property, and they're clear cutting their whole 39 acres. So they're getting ahead of the game.
Excuse me. The issue is that these beetles, we can't control. They're not controlled by the river or any sort of boundary.
Yeah.
So we've noticed, and it doesn't show it on this map, but up and down the Ocklawackney River corridor, on both sides of it, Wakulla County, Franklin County has outbreaks. National Forest up there, even over there in St. Mark's in Wakulla County, they have a mind of their own, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, we're in the mitigation process
Sure.
of coming in afterwards.
Yeah, so we have discussed on 6 and 7, if those property owners choose not to do anything and it spreads on their property, we've discussed how we can mitigate it from getting on our property, and that would be to go in around their properties, on our property, and cut that boundary.
Yeah, because I see if their property is infested with this,
Right.
I can just see a beetle flying over to our property, right?
Right.
And you feel that the buffer is our best line of defense with something like this?
Yes, sir.
Correct. Yeah, science has proved time and time again that this
Okay.
buffer method works. Once you get the trees on the ground, even if we didn't remove them, if you have that buffer and the trees are on the ground, the beetles can't take off from the ground and move forward.
Okay. I'm glad we had this discussion because this property, this is in my district, and we have folks very concerned about just the utilization of McIntyre Road, and now we see the science behind it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any more questions, Commissioners?
Just a statement, I guess you'd say.
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting when they were here on Zoom, I stated that I understood the concerns with the southern pine beetle. And we've seen a lot of this after Hurricane Michael. Now, whether it's the stressed trees that you're referring to after that storm, we've had people with private property that's called the county wanting to know if we have a program to help them remove trees from their private property.
Right.
They actually went as far as to call the state and Representative Schoaf's office to see if there was any state monies that would help. He said he cut all the trees he could afford to cut, but he still got more trees. And all this, as far as I know, y'all know more than I do, but after the hurricane, we really started seeing a spike of people's pine trees dying as a result of the southern pine beetle. So I do understand that, but we got to do what we got to do. We need to protect our state forests and our national forests, and as you said, the forester can't help on private property. The county has no ability to help on private property, but it's still devastating because these trees die. They don't want to fall on somebody's house.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you ain't got the money to cut the trees, what do you do? I mean, it's been a quagmire for all of us up here as far as constituency needing help, and we don't have any help available for them. But maybe this educational process that we went through this morning will provide them with some kind of clarity as to what needs to be done and what can be done. I think we have a path forward here this morning to help with what we need to do to help the State Forestry Service to eliminate this blight before it gets to more private property and devalues our state forest where it's not economically viable to go in and take these trees before, because once they hit the ground, then there's no value to them. And we've seen a lot of that after the hurricane. You know, a lot of trees were left laying because there was no value to them. You couldn't get, there wasn't enough loggers in the state to take care of all the trees that were blowed down during Hurricane Michael. And eventually you lost all that economic value. So I understand that. I too appreciate y'all coming here this morning and providing a sense of clarity for the public to understand exactly what's going on, exactly what you need out of us. My question is how long, if we do this special permit for McIntyre Road, how long do you actually think it would take the loggers to get in and get out?
Commissioner, if I may, the logging company that is up on that #1 spot up there, they are about to wrap up that, and they started that on Wednesday. And that was a clear cut, so it took them about 3 days plus the holiday, so 3 or 4 days. Now, the logging operation that we would conduct on #11 would be that clear cut of the buffer and the infested spot, as well as the thinning of the surrounding timber, which I believe is about 68 acres. So I would hate to say more than a week, but depending on weather conditions and all and ground conditions, probably about a week or so.
Probably much, or a month or less.
Yeah, definitely.
By far
a
less than a
month and
month.
less.
Yes.
Yeah. And it depends on weather, like Alex said. If it starts raining, you know, we pull loggers because that messes up the road if you're logging in the rain and things like that. So we're gonna manage, you know, mitigate that road damage by pulling them when it's raining.
Right.
Bad weather.
And that was leading to my next question is, you know, we're depending on, we don't know the loggers. Loggers are not under contract with us, they're under contract with y'all. So we're depending on y'all to maintain that road. And if it starts raining, you need to pull them, and that, you know, we expect y'all to handle that
Yes,
because
sir.
the loggers are not under contract with the county, so we have no ability to say, you know, this is what we need to do, or this road, you understand that the road needs to be passable for these people that live in that area, and
Right.
we're expecting y'all to handle that.
Yeah, and the loggers understand that too because it comes out of their pocket to maintain the road.
So if they tear it up, they're having to pay money to replace culverts or any sort of issues.
Okay.
And we've also had logging operations on county roads, such as Jeff Sanders. 2 years ago, we had a logging operation there, just south of the private property, and we didn't have any issues with complaints or anything. And like you had mentioned, it's in the contract, and we go out there every single day, if not every other day, and monitor, what they're doing, how the road conditions, all that.
That's good to know, and it's good for the public to know.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Now, these, in that diseased area, you say you're gonna clear cut it. Will it ever be able to replant?
Yes, sir. Yeah, once we clear cut and do the thinning, we do reforestation every year of our areas that need it. So it would be eligible for reforestation.
Yes, sir. Number 2 and 3 that have been identified up there, as well as 5, will all be reforested. The number 11, it's in the middle of the block, so it may be a little bit more difficult to actually go in there and reforest it ourselves versus natural reforestation.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Well, them trees need to go. I mean, you got a disease out there, and it's just like COVID. It's gonna spread it unless you try to stop it.
Yes,
And
sir.
as long as you sit up here and we sit up here and don't do nothing, bigger, be all over the county, be all over the state if you don't do nothing about it.
That's right.
We need to do what we got to do.
Commissioner Bolt?
Thank you. Let me just think of activities of daily living relative to the logging. At the end of every day, relative to making sure that that road, McIntyre, is passable to the people who live there, you're checking to be sure and will smooth the road, be sure that it's drivable. And then making sure also that the loggers don't park their trucks there over the weekend or overnight or over holidays, that road is passable.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And then you'll inspect through and through the culverts to be sure that those 70,000-pound weight loads have not compromised the culverts.
Yes, sir. I went out
all
and-
those kinds of diagnostics?
Yes, sir. I went out and looked at the culverts in the road already, and about 5 or 6 years ago, the county replaced all those culverts on McIntyre Road, and they replaced them with the same culverts that we use on the forest, and we have logging trucks over them constantly,
Okay.
and have not any issues, but we will, continue to look at the culvert there on McIntyre.
Okay, okay. And then no hauling during rain events and stuff like that, is that correct?
Correct.
Oh, as well, okay.
Yes, sir. And then also, when the loggers are out there actively logging, they make sure to park in a way that vehicles can still get by
Okay,
and
sure, of
pass
course.
during the operation.
And do you guys post a bond of some sort when you do this kind of work?
Yes, sir.
You do, okay,
The loggers do.
The loggers do.
okay, good. These are the questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, so I made sure that Howard talked to Clint last week to verify, because, you hear some people say, well, there are alternate roads. So Howard verified, based on where they're doing their work, there are no alternate roads they can use. So they have to use that area in McIntyre. So I just want to say that before Attorney Schuler explains the process in which, if you guys want to approve this, how we can do it, okay?
Okay.
So verify, Howard is aware of this.
Thank you, sir. Attorney Schuler?
I was waiting for the board. If the board wants to adopt an emergency ordinance to authorize a special use permit for essentially the treatment, as they refer to it, of the southern pine beetle, I have presented to the board this morning a proposed draft of an emergency ordinance. It would not rescind the current restrictions on McIntyre, which limit that portion, basically 1.5 miles of McIntyre, to 2-axle vehicles, but it would authorize the issuance of a special use permit for the purposes that have been explained by forestry here today. And to follow up and further what Commissioner Parrish said, the special use permit is being issued to the Florida Forest Service, not your contractors. So if y'all can't make them do right on the road, the board will be looking to the Florida Forest Service to make sure that the road is maintained and repaired. So I wanted to make sure that that was clearly understood in the ordinance and by Florida Forest Service. In order to adopt an emergency ordinance, if you would look at the bottom of the first page of the draft, paragraph 2 is a necessary finding and would have to be the motion of the board. And I'll put it into record. Franklin County has determined that an emergency exists and that the immediate enactment of this ordinance is necessary, and that it therefore waives the ordinary notice requirements of section 125.66 subsection 2 Florida statutes by a 4/5 vote of the membership of the Board of County Commissioners of Franklin County, Florida. And if the board makes that finding and declaration, then what this ordinance would do is amend Ordinance 92.3 to allow for the issuance of a special use permit by Franklin County, which temporarily allows the use of vehicles with more than 2 axles on that part of McIntyre Road regulated by Ordinance 92-3 for the purpose of removing and treating timber infected with the southern pine beetle, and that the special use permit shall require that the Florida Forest Service and its independent contractors to maintain and repair the road and culverts so that such part of McIntyre is passable by car. And except for the issuance of the special use permit provided by this ordinance, all vehicles with more than 2 axles shall continue to be subject to Ordinance 92-3, which means that unless you have a special use permit and you got more than 2 axles, your vehicle cannot be on McIntyre Road. And Commissioners, that is the substance of the ordinance. And unless you have any further questions for me, that's the end of my presentation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
does that ordinance 92-3 include that the Forestry Service will post a bond that the Forestry Service will make sure that the road is smooth and passable after every application of their work?
This ordinance does not
Doesn't-
require the Florida Forest Service to provide a bond. I think what Mr. Davis was referring to is their loggers are required to post a bond with forestry.
All right, as long as it's in there.
But
then. Okay.
honestly, and Commissioner, the reason I thought about the bond, because I know some of the commissioners had mentioned basically a cash guarantee from the Florida Forest Service. It was an item for discussion, but I think given the resources of the state of Florida, we can rely on them to have the resources to
Okay.
provide the materials and equipment to do whatever may be necessary on their part if their independent contractors fail to maintain and repair the road.
Okay, so you have a subcontract with your haulers that would say, don't haul on that road during rain events and things like that?
We tell them that they can't haul during the
Okay,
rain
so-
events,
and
so
you
we go out there and shut them down.
Make sure there's accountability.
Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, we go out and check them at least every day, if not every other day, so.
Okay.
And they don't work on the weekends. So,
And they don't park on the weekends either,
no,
right?
sir.
Okay, okay. Well, I think that probably clears the concerns of my constituents in that road.
Yes, sir.
Good. So do you need a motion to,
Yes, sir. The
pass it.
motion would be as contained in paragraph 2 at the bottom of page 1 of the draft ordinance. And the reason it's so specific is given the fact that this is potentially an adoption of an ordinance on an emergency basis without the usual notice requirements in the newspaper. The statute lays out certain findings that the board must make. For example, the motion must determine, the Franklin County has determined that an emergency exists, that the immediate enactment of this ordinance is necessary, and that it is waiving the ordinary notice requirements by a 4/5 vote of the membership of this board, which means a majority vote will not cut it here. If 4 out of 5 members vote for this potential ordinance, then it's adopted.
Okay.
If less than 4/5 of the membership votes for this, then it fails.
so I would so move that we pass this emergency ordinance.
Based on the findings that I've read into the
Yes,
record, Commissioner?
Specifically, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt,
Second.
second by Commissioner Parrish.
Any public comment?
Oh, any public comments on this, since this is an ordinance?
Any public comments? Is there any
What about Michael? See, is there anybody on?
Anyone
Zoom?
online would like to comment on this item before the board votes, takes action? Please raise your hand. No hands raised. Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion by the board before we vote?
Just real quick, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to make a statement that I like doing this special permit rather than rescinding the ordinance protecting McIntyre Road. I really like that when I looked at it.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, looking at the paperwork that was coming to this meeting this morning. This is a lot better. I think it's a lot better for the citizens, rather than just totally doing away with the ordinance protecting the road. We're allowing forestry to have a special permit to use the road, and I think that's better protection for the citizens, so I'm all in favor for it.
Yeah.
I just want to, myself personally, thank the state for putting us in this. Cause they weren't gonna, the state ain't gonna let it go too far without them just coming in and do what they got to do now.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, 5-0.
Thank you, and that gives our officers of the state of Florida Forestry Department, now you see the permission, you can go forward. I'm glad you came here today.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, in case you guys didn't know, that same Alex standing there wearing that uniform, that's your Alex from your Planning and Zoning Adjustment Board. That's your Vice Chairman. I know you guys hear names and sometimes you don't get a chance to put the face to the name. That is Alex Jabinsky from the Planning and Zoning Adjustment Board.
District 3.
District 3, yes.
Thanks, Mike, for putting me on the spot.
No, you're good. Thank you, Alex, for volunteering,
And,
sir.
Alex, don't forget to transfer that to the thumb drive.
We got it for you.
Leave it right there in the corner. Thank you.
Thank you again,
Thank you for your
Commissioner.
service, Ellen.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Did we have anybody turn in the speaker card?
I
sir?
just checked again, Commissioner, no, just want to make sure, I always try to double check myself here. Change speaker, no speaker cards turned in via email, and no one turned in one. This is me, I love you guys, there's a shaky there, no. So, no, so we are good, Mr. Chairman, actually, So there's no one for public comment, sir.
Okay.
And Ginger's eagerly standing in the back of the room. ready to
Ginger
move
Coulter,
on.
Sheriff's Department.
All right.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. Ginger Coulter, Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I am here to seek the Commission's approval for ratifying the chairman's signature on a grant that we received from FDLE, and also to amend our current year budget to reflect that grant. The full grant is in the amount of $410,000, but a quarter of that grant will be on this fiscal year for $102,500, and the remaining will go on the next budget year.
400 and what?
And I have here to answer any questions you may have.
Give me that number again, and then.
He wants to know the total
The
again.
total grant is for $410,000. But for this budget year, only $102,500 will go on this current year.
Okay.
And I need to amend the budget by that amount.
So move.
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley.
I'll second. I got a couple questions.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner Ward. Please proceed, Commissioner.
So this grant, Ginger, just for the public, it is
Sure.
a state grant.
It is.
That Governor DeSantis signed it to the new budget.
It is.
It is for officers only?
For sworn law enforcement and corrections officers in the state of Florida and Franklin County, we are blessed that in one sense, we're blessed that we're considered financially and fiscally constrained because the state will fund that, but your larger counties, they actually have to fund it through the county. So we're fortunate that the state is funding this for us.
My only concern about it is I want everybody to realize that this is the state, not the county.
Correct.
And in addition to that, I want the officers to know and realize, I don't know if we can maybe get them to sign a letter saying that this fact that we can't guarantee this to be a continual paycheck for them in the budget the way it is. So I just want them to be aware of that. I don't want them to include it in their normal cost of living.
Correct.
Budgeting for their household and then come to find out, next year that it's not there and they get upset and want to know why. And I don't know. I just want to make a point for them to know that.
And that is a good concern you have, Commissioner. I do not think we can require them to sign anything, but we did have to come up with a spending plan. FDLE required us to come up with a spending plan, and that is something that I put in the study plan, is for them to be aware that this could change.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Ginger. Appreciate
Welcome.
Any more questions? Yes.
This is an amendment to the current salary that they get every 2 weeks. Is that correct?
Well, we get paid twice per month, but yes, sir.
Mhm. And you're saying that this is not assured year after year. Is that what we're saying?
Well, I can't guarantee FDLE will provide the funding year after year. I do believe they've got enough funding for a couple of years, but they're very unclear on how long the grant will last.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make that, just wanted to reinforce the fact that this is in addition to the salary pay plan that we have already implemented. This is an extra opportunity bonus. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker, did you have something to say?
No,
Oh, I thought you did. I'm sorry.
no, yeah. I mean, they do this stuff all the time. And then they pass it down as put it to the county and say, amend the budget. Not the first time, ain't gonna be the last. Anticipated revenue.
Yeah, it is.
That's good, I'm glad they got it.
It is a direct benefit for honestly everything everybody's been going through since COVID hit. Everybody in law enforcement for sure, and county workers as well. There were no days off. They were all still working. They're all still performing services for the citizens. The sheriff's office to make sure everybody was safe, trying to keep everybody as legal as possible. I mean, that's just the way it goes. This is a state mandated funding. They
Yes.
funded it, they directed how much should go to our county based on our size and other factors, whether they keep recurringly provide it in their budget, that's on the state legislature.
Right.
But I do think it's a good positive thing that they done to make sure, because not every county is doing or has done stuff like we're trying to do with our pay plan. Some are still just getting whatever they get, and there's no real bump in anything. So this was just an assurance from the state that they made sure that the sheriff departments were being taken care of, is the way I understood it.
You ain't seen nothing, I might show to get it to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, one thing, I
Good luck with that.
I don't know if the warden mentioned it when he was here, but I think the warden, they're also getting one at the state prison. They're hoping
Yes.
to use use theirs for recruitment. They're hoping more people will apply, with the state correctional institute, so they can beef up their staff and hopefully then get more inmates, and you know how that process goes. So,
Yes.
a lot of people are using it for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
For as long as
kind
it
of,
lasts.
that's kind of the way they talked about it at the legislature there when they were back and forth and trying to pass it, was giving away for even counties to be able to give some kind of maybe sign-on bonus to try to recruit people, and make sure that pay was at a certain level so you can retain those same people you recruited. So, yeah, this is all part of it.
Mr. Chairman, just one more thing.
Yes.
And Ginger, I read the stipulations that you have to partake to get this money and make sure it's going and spent the right way.
Yeah,
So
it's a lot.
kudos to you for having to keep up with all that.
Thank you.
It's a lot.
It is a lot of work, but it's worth it. Our men and women of law enforcement and corrections, they deserve it. They work very hard, 24/7.
Yeah,
Yes.
they should have done it for the teachers.
Any more discussion before we vote?
I would hope that all the law enforcement officers that get this bonus will just simply go and open up a savings account and put it right in there, and not to depend upon that as a living supplement. That's just a philosophy of mine.
They gonna have to buy gas and.
Yeah, I know.
That's gonna take
Everything
a
else is
minute.
going up.
I know.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
There you
Y'all have
go.
a great day.
You too.
Thank you, Ginger.
All right, up next, Mr. Howard Neighbors, Superintendent of Roads and Bridges for Franklin County.
Good morning, Commissioners. How y'all doing?
Doing well, how you doing?
Doing good. I have got no action items. But we have been working hard on the grass cutting and the inmate situation, like the warden said, that we're so short of inmates, and I was sending 6 trucks over there with 10 inmates, so, I've cut down to 3 trucks. I can haul 4 inmates in each pickup truck, so we ain't been getting no more than 12, so. My other ones is kind of, some of the inmate crews, I have 3 of them watching them, and sometimes, I put the other inmate supervisors on 0 turns and stuff, trying to, keep up with the grass cutting.
Sounds good. Even from today, I think he said you could possibly look at sending 1 or 2. You don't have to necessarily send 3. 1 might not be optimal because you want to make sure you get more inmates than 1 can handle.
Yeah, but I can only haul 4 inmates in each pickup truck. Today I think I got 12 inmates. So, it will take 3 trucks to get them, so I ain't got no van or nothing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And Howard and Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Howard and Fonda could probably explain better than me. And I asked the question, we had a meeting with the warden last week. So they don't know, Howard, and I say they, Howard and Fonda, they don't know before their crews leave the county office how many inmates they're gonna get. Because, again, gentlemen, jump in if I'm saying this wrong, but apparently at what they call, is it call out? Is that what's the term that they use, at call out? That could change right before they get there or as they get there, you see? And call out determines how many inmates are gonna be released that morning to your 2 departments, or 3 departments, 4, or whatever. But I just need a board and the public to understand that, because I was under the same impression, like, well, why don't they just check that before they send the trucks or the van or whatever? That's not how it works.
I got a question.
Yeah, that's correct, Michael, that's right. if I only sent 2 trucks and I got 12 inmates, so there's 3 inmates I'm leaving, and I want every inmate that I can get.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds good. Go ahead with your question, Commissioner.
Mr. Howard and Mr. Farmer, I want to ask both of y'all a question. Since the price of fuel went up, is y'all gonna have enough to take care of y'all till we do our budget?
I'm running close, Commissioner. I'm pretty low, and it's a lot. I mean, fuel doubled, since last year.
I know.
So it's, and even on my budget and all that I sent in, I went up half. So you're looking at probably from last year to this year, 80 to 85,000 more dollars just in fuel. Getting a tank of fuel for 12,000, and now we're paying like 23,000. So it's just a pretty serious situation. So
That's why I was asking, I'm talking about the budget, what we already to pay for what you got now. You think you're gonna be able to have enough until we get to the end, or we gonna have to make a move?
it's going to be close, Commissioner. Probably, to be honest with you, probably going to have to make a move.
Okay.
I got it all figured up, and we're running pretty low.
What about you, Mr. Davis?
It's running tight, Commissioner.
So, okay, well, what y'all do is get too close, let us know before, don't, give us a little time to work it out.
I would ask Commissioner Lockley, as a matter of fact, to have their, either Virginia, Melissa, Fonda, or Howard themselves contact Aaron before a meeting and say,
Right.
hey, we got a problem.
Yeah.
So that there's
Definitely.
something that Aaron could propose to the board to give them more money for gas. I hear you. I hear you, Commissioner.
Yeah.
That's
We don't
a
wanna
very
just-
good question.
We just don't wanna wait up the meeting day and then,
Yeah.
so if you can do it within a week or so.
Yes.
So let them know, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And also on the roads, McIntyre Road, like Michael said, I got up Clint on that road and looked, and there wasn't no other way, but them to get them logs, they'd ever use that McIntyre Road. But I'll be checking on that road probably daily.
Good.
Something else that wasn't brought up too is make sure that they keep them ditches cleaned out. So a lot of times they pile that stuff in them ditches and try to load it, and a lot of that stuff left, and somebody's got to clean it out.
I'll let Clint know, Howard. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, anyone have any questions or concerns for Mr. Neighbors other than what we've talked about?
Yeah, Howard, if you in Appalachia, get up with me for the weekend. I got something I wanna show you.
Okay. I get up with you one day this week.
Okay, I ain't no hurry, just.
Okay. We take care of it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Howard, and thank y'all for everything you do.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Thank y'all.
Mr. Fonda Davis, Solid Waste Director, you're up next, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I only have one item on my report this morning that's just for your information. It's the girls softball team. They will be advance to state. The Franklin County Dixie softball teams will be advancing to state. They will go into Florida State District Tournament, which will be held in Liberty County. We have 5 teams the tournament is July the 4th through the 8th. Again, it's in Liberty County. The Darlings, the Angel X-Play, Ponytail X-Play, and the Bells. That was the tournament that was held here in Franklin County. Our teams will advance to state. We do have some boys that's playing right now down in Sebring. They're doing real good. We had another team that played in Mariana, boys team, that they didn't advance no further. Just want to let you all know that. Again, back onto the fuel situation, we do have a small county solid waste grant that you all are aware of that helps us with some of our fuel reimbursement. So just let you know that.
All right, so you think you'll be good till we get the budget done?
We should be
With
good,
that.
Commissioner, yes.
If not, just give us a couple week notice or a week notice so we can make some kind of arrangement.
Yeah, we'll do.
We got to keep you rolling.
That's right. We got to supply the county with the service that they expect. Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, but well, that tournament is going on today, right? You said the 4th through the 8th?
4th through the 8th, yes, sir.
What's going on now?
Right. And also to add too, you knew, just to remind you all and the public that we do give each team that advance to state $2,500 each.
Yeah.
And then if they win state and advance to national, that's $5,000. So that's part come out of Park and Rec budget also. Just want to remind you all of that.
It's like a sweet and sour thing. We want them all to win, but it does tax us budget when they do.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, that's just the way the board policy is and how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to see the kids advance on, but you know, sometime when we may need a fence repair or something like that, it's money that was to support the kids.
Yeah.
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 And, you know, not to stand on the soapbox here, but, you know, I saw somebody pointed out some criticism to me the other day, you know, about a batter's cage or something, and there was this long social trending thing, whatever. But you know, and I don't post on social media, it's not what I do, but however I sat there and I thought about that, and I was like, some of those same people that's posting are ones that have benefited from their kids traveling and getting this money. So my point is, tell me, how much do you want? You don't want the taxes to go up. You want the board to keep this policy in place that helps the kids and the parents when they travel with hotels and foods and stuff like that, so our kids are supported and everything. And then they want everything to be fixed tip-top, perfect shape. Yeah, okay, so where's the give? You know what? What are you looking for? If you don't want to be taxed higher, you want these, which I say are very generous policies that we have in place to help everybody out. We have in my opinion, a very small Parks and Rec department. I'm talking about labor-wise, commissioners. Mm-hmm. You know, if you look at what they're responsible for, the parks, the bathrooms, the leave no trace on the beaches, I mean, the list can go on. So where's the give? Because I'd like to know which other county actually pays the parents, and when we say we give them money, give is a word, because we don't ask for receipts. We don't ask for anything to prove where the money was spent. We just say, hey, this is for you guys to help you on your trip. And I know I'm probably going to end up on social media this afternoon, but so what? My point is, what do they expect? Where's the give?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
let me compliment just what you've just said. And as we move into this next budget year, I really think that we need to get down to plain language for the people. Here's what you get as a result of this particular budget that was either neutralized or we increased it. You get A, B, C, D, E, F. That's what you get when we do this. And I think if you can show people what they get for their money in some sort of a layman language, simple but to the point, I think is very, very important, particularly with this critical inflationary type trend. To your point.
And maybe you're right, Commissioner. Maybe I'm assuming that most people know and they don't.
They
so maybe
don't.
That's on me.
Not all. I think it's all of us. And perhaps this new link on our county website for projects and stuff like that, that's just one area. Might be a link for here's what you get for your money for your particular millage rate this year. So just a thought.
Just a thought.
You know, we getting back to the kids, and we need I'd rather see them out there playing ball than getting in trouble.
Oh, amen.
Getting in trouble.
That's
well,
right.
you're gonna have some clowns. They gonna say something anyway, so it don't bother me.
You're right.
It don't bother me.
Oh,
They
yeah.
ain't nothing you gonna do to set it fire. So, here's what it is.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing. And the other thing everybody keeps referring to is, well, let TDC pay for it. I think the problem is, and this is to your point, Commissioner, most people don't really understand the TDC statute, the rules,
Amen.
why we are really restricted, you know, to actually how we can spend money. I try to kind of give a warning when we were discussing this in relation to the one said, it's not as simple as, well, commissioners, tell us what you want, and we'll do it. No, that's not how it works. There's a few benchmarks that I wish the state would remove, you know, which would help us with infrastructure, Commissioner Lockley, and other things you complain about, you know, that you wish TDC could help. They just can't. Yeah. It's not this board's rule, it's not the TDC board's rule, it is the state's rule. Yeah. As simple as that.
Yeah.
You want to complain to somebody, complain to your state representatives. That's who you need to complain to.
See, the problem is, I'll tell you what the problem is, Mike. They got lower counties, we on the same scale as Miami, Jacksonville, you know. They get buku money. We don't even, we get what, that a 10 million cap?
Cap, we
Yeah.
we would have to make over 10
Got to
million to
make
spend the
10
money.
million.
10 million.
And
We don't get near about that much.
Yeah, I know.
But but that's the same thing they tell us on big county, in which they should separate that. The numbers for the small county should be lower.
Yeah, and Chairman
High,
Jones,
low.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the chairman of the TDC board, so I'm kind of treading in his water here, but he
No,
understands
yeah.
it a lot better than I do, you know, but, yeah, I mean, you know, it's just very, very frustrating situation
The
sometimes.
big county shouldn't be set up with the little county.
The statute does have some things in it that are one size fits all, and one size does not fit all.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, some of those counties collect more than $10 million in a month.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
so, once they get past that $10 million cap for the year, which you're referring to, they can pretty much do whatever they want to with it. Whether it's paving roads, building parking lots, it doesn't matter. It kind of takes the handcuffs off, as it were. They do whatever they want to with it. And as long as you're below that 10 million a year, you're held to statute of what you can and can't do with it. So, I will say this, to kind of wrap up this discussion. So, I was blessed in 2014. I stood in front of this commission, Commissioner Parrish, Commissioner Lockley. You were both on the commission then. We had our boys team won what we didn't know was a right to go play in a national tournament by winning a tournament in Tallahassee for AAU basketball. So they went to Virginia Beach. This board gave us $5,000 to make that trip. Well, when I got through, nobody asked me. I just thought it was the right thing to do. I gave the current commissioner that was TDC commissioner chair at that time and the individual that was over Parks and Recs copies of all of our receipts for our fuel, for our hotel, for our eats. And it was about $30 shy of $5,000. I asked them if they wanted a check or if they were good with what was left. And both of them said, nope, don't worry about it. Maybe we didn't need to do that, but I thought it was the appropriate thing to do. All those kids were Franklin County Seahawks during our summer thing with Coach Sweat, and I just thought it was the appropriate thing to do. You know, whether this board wants to look at amending not what we give, but how it's reported, that's on this board. But, you know, that's a decision for another day. We're not going to decide that today.
Bonnie, you guys do a wonderful job. I'll
Yeah.
just tell you. I don't know how you do it,
Yeah.
but the guys do a wonderful job.
Yeah,
You know what,
correct,
Mr.
though.
Chairman?
I think it's fine the way they've been doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
I can just tell you, I invited myself to sit in the corner of one of the dugouts during this Dixie tournament. And what a ball, to see those little girls just having a good time. One little girl leading the cheerleading of all the others. And these are the things that don't make the headlines.
That's right.
It just was good, clean, healthy process and wholesome, and it was rich. And I would invite all commissioners to do that next year. Very, very special.
Right. Not just to brag on one department out of the three that I oversee, but that Park and Rec, they do extremely well for such a small group. Whatever is called on upon them to do, they do it with very little hesitation. And I think that need to be noticed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they do a good job, so.
And I don't hear them
Again, the other two departments also do extremely well. But again, Parks and Rec, for all that we have to do in this county, and such a small group, does a tremendous, great job.
I don't hear them complaining.
Yeah,
It'd be hot out there.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be
yeah.
hot.
Mr. Chairman.
That's all I have for the board.
And before Fonda walks away, item 15 on your agenda, on page 3, is Mr. Doug Rayner from Waste Management. We had talked about the contract renewal at the last meeting, so he is here to answer any questions that you may have specifically about that, because as that ending date quickly approaches, the board needs to make a decision as to how we're going to move forward.
Okay.
Mr. Rayner, he's just on, there he is, waving at the board. Hey, Doug, if you want to unmute, and we would be good to go. There he is, and let me spotlight him for everybody. All right, Doug, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well, sir.
Hey, Doug.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I meant to turn him over to you, sir.
Okay.
In case you have any questions.
No, I don't have any questions. It was pretty self-explanatory what I have read on what was going on, but I'll open it up to any other commissioners if y'all have any questions.
Just one. Doug, this is Bert Bolt, Commissioner in District 2. Just at the risk of sounding like we're pestering this point, do you know if this proposed rate increase can be phased in some way rather than all at once? Have you had any further discussions since I saw you in Orlando?
We've talked about it briefly. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've talked about that briefly. That's something that we've discussed at numerous levels, and by proposing we prefer not to go that route. We would prefer to provide a $2 discount per ton if you can actually reach a threshold that provides a volume that's higher than what you have now.
Okay. We tried.
Any other questions, Commissioner? All right.
So I think what we'd be looking for, if the board is ready today, is to approve that contract extension if Attorney Schuler has no objections.
Well, I wasn't sure if we were taking information or board action. If we're proposing board action, then I do have a question for Mr. Rayner.
Well, the board hasn't made a motion, so let me not jump ahead.
I understand.
Kind of asking the board if that's what they prefer to do today. You need more time. What direction does the board need to go in with this?
Didn't sound like more time was gonna get us anywhere.
No, that's right.
So why
We
delay
tried already.
taking action?
Well, Mr. Chairman, may I
Please
proceed?
proceed.
Hi, Mr. Rayner, it's Michael Schuler. I'm the attorney for the board. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
One question that I have posed to you via Mr. Davis, and I'll pose it to you now. I've seen the proposed rate increase. That seems to be the only change that's proposed by Waste Management in the 5-year extension of the contract. I just wanted to confirm for the record there are no other changes to the contract being proposed for the board to consider other than the increase of the per ton rate. Is that correct, sir?
Not exactly. Excuse me. Did you draft this, or did the county drafted this contract, correct? Because it doesn't look like one that Waste Management actually drafted.
It was a mutual effort. It was
Okay.
your contract that there was some tweaks made to it 5 years ago, and I'm curious where Waste Management, because I know basically the prior staff that we've been dealing with, I think, have all retired, God bless them, and wish them great luck. But I'm curious what the new team thinks about the contract terms, because there hasn't been a discussion with this board yet about changing anything other than the per ton rate, as far as I'm aware.
Sure. So our proposal was to change essentially per ton rate, remove the cap on the CPI, add the CPI to be done every year as opposed to every other year. And we've also proposed a discount of $2 per ton if a certain threshold is met. And we've agreed that based on some information Fonda gave us that 17,000 tons a year would be kind of your max amount of volume. So if you break that down around 1,400 tons per month, we would have to put that into the contract. It's not unusual for our disposal contracts to have something like that. Those would be changes that are not currently in this contract. There's also a little force majeure language that needs to be updated since the pandemic and other things. We've been amending that in our other contracts as well.
Okay, well, Commissioners, with that being said on the record, my recommendation is you not take action this morning. Let's wait and have the board get a complete picture for what Waste Management is proposing. I mean, the deadline for the renewal is October the 1st, so there is time.
Definitely.
With the attorney's comments, I make a motion that we table this and not take any action today, and work in conjunction with Mr. Davis and the attorney to come back and make a recommendation on these contract
And it should
changes.
just be the next meeting. I don't see it taking that long for Waste Management to draft whatever they want to send down. But just so the board knows, and let me clarify, because Mr. Rayner mentioned it, but the current contract, which was for the first 5-year term, which is now being proposed to exercise the 5-year renewal, that contract has 2 limitations. One is the CPI is capped at 3.5%, so that the current tonnage rate, which at that time was $17 per ton, it could not go up more than 3.5%, but it could only do so every other year as opposed to an annual increase. And so those were some issues that I had passed on to Mr. Rayner through Mr. Davis, and I would just like the comfort of seeing the written contract. No reason it shouldn't be able to be done by the next board meeting. That way the board looks at all 3 of the issues, the rate increase, the CPI issue, in terms of the CPI cap, and then every other year on the CPI adjustment as opposed to what's being proposed, which is annual. So.
Okay, so we have a motion to table by Commissioner Parrish, so we can have all this language added in the contract and we can look at it before we take any further action.
Could I make a comment first,
Yes,
please?
sir.
Okay, so we can do that, and the reason why we haven't presented you with a contract with any kind of updates is because we were looking for an agreement from the board to renew the contract, or to go forward with a renewal. That's how we've done our most recent renewals the last 12 months is we usually get some type of direction from the board to that you want to renew your contract under the terms that we discussed generally, and we draft a contract to present to you to vote on finally. If I can at least have your consensus to work toward a renewal, then I can have our attorney draft the contract.
I would think, and I'm not trying to oversimplify things, I would think that I don't see that our board is not wanting to do that. If we were, we'd probably be voting no today instead of tabling it, is what I understand.
Yeah.
Question,
That's my
Commissioner,
read.
would that include the threshold in the contract? Would that be worded in there also?
Yes,
That's what I'm expecting, Mr. Davis.
Okay, thank you.
yes.
So,
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I can only speak for one commissioner. I'm ready to move forward with the contract, but I can't move forward with the contract if I ain't seen it, or the attorney hadn't seen it, or staff has not seen it. So for the board to take action today and say, yeah, we're moving on, when we don't even know what we're moving on because we don't have a contract. So I understand the gentleman's concern, and I think we've pretty much made a point that, you know, we're pretty much gonna move forward, but on the public's behalf, on taxpayers' behalf, how do you move forward on something you hadn't seen or the attorney hadn't reviewed? So that's the reason I made the motion to table, just to get clarification, get the contract done, have the attorney review it, and have Fonda review it. If everybody's in conjunction and explains to the board exactly what we're voting on, then we are ready to move forward. If that helps you.
Let me ask this, Commissioner, if it's doable. Mr. Renier, would you feel more comfortable if we rescinded the motion to table, not even talking about the contract, and we just made a motion today that we're looking at moving forward contingent on working out our contract? That we're not approving a contract today, we're just approving moving forward today. Is that what you were
Sure.
trying to say? Okay.
Yes, sir. We're not asking for a contract proposal or a contract to be accepted because it hasn't been drafted.
Okay.
Just you're asking us to move forward in that process, which you've done through this discussion, and we're okay.
Okay.
So I'll rescind my motion.
Okay. So is there a motion from the board to, I guess, proceed in the discussions and forward in the contract, instructing Attorney Schuler to try to come back next meeting with that contract for us to consider?
So moved.
All right. We have a motion to approve that by Commissioner Bolt.
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Ward. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Good.
Does that do it?
Good. That's good.
That work, Mr.
Thank
Rayner?
you all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
one
Yes.
more thing about the landfill, Fonda, before you walk away. Aaron has an information item. I know it seems like we're gonna be here forever, so, and we got some public hearings coming up, so
We're
after.
doing the public hearings after this item.
Okay.
Item on my report is item H, the landfill permit renewal and cost of closure. Franklin County landfill consists of an active Class 3 landfill, which is yard debris, construction, and demolition only, a closed and inactive Class 1 landfill, a composting operation, a yard trash processing operation, a waste tire collection center, operation of a transfer station, operation of an air curtain incinerator, serves as a clean materials recovery facility, and processes composting wastewater. In May, the landfill's 5-year operating permit was renewed. Every 5 years, a comprehensive review and analysis is done to assess the remaining useful life of a landfill site. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection is the permitting agency, and as part of the landfill licensure process, licensees must demonstrate financial assurance that funds are available to meet the cost of closure. Financial assurance requirements have been in place since the early 1980s to ensure proper and adequate resources are available if closure becomes necessary. The unprecedented amount of storm and construction debris processed in the aftermath of Hurricane Michael has shortened the remaining useful life of the landfill to approximately 10 years from 2022. The cost recalculation for closure is $4,493,486 and $1,631,799 for long-term care post-closure. Based on the specified inflation factor in the report of 1.041, the county will need a balance of the landfill management escrow fund of $3,704,953 by the end of next fiscal year. The current balance in the county's landfill management escrow fund is $3,318,535. An estimated transfer of approximately $386,418 will be needed in the upcoming budget to meet the county's financial assurance responsibility. This amount is $186,418 more than the $200,000 per year that is currently budgeted from your tipping fee fund. It is necessary for the county to preserve any spread between tipping fee rates charged by the county and those charged by vendor waste management for the processing of household garbage to ensure that the county has funds available to meet the mandated assurance. As we approach the end of life for our existing landfill, it will be necessary for our county to explore alternatives moving forward, as the permitting process for all of these activities is lengthy and difficult. I've asked County Engineers Dewberry and Associates for a proposal to present for consideration by the board at the next meeting to assist the county by outlining options and providing cost estimates moving beyond our existing landfill, whether it be trying to construct and permit a new landfill site or the transition to a transfer station operation similar to many other coastal counties, Gulf County in particular. And that's just an informational item.
So in other words, some tough decisions coming up about the landfill, commissioners.
Okay. Anything else from Mr. Davis while he's here, commissioners?
Just one point. Fonda, there's an excavator standing by there on Island View Park, just to be sure that you preserve those pavers that are there and they're not going to tear them up. Can we just be sure that that we can salvage those pavers? And that excavator may be there for an entirely different reason, but I just wanted to be sure that.
Well, you may be right, Commissioner. Trying to preserve the pavers.
Yes,
It'll be difficult. But I imagine that'll take a lot of time for the contractor to sit there and pull them one by one. We surely, Parks and Rec don't have the manpower, but we're going to try to preserve them the best as possible.
Oh, so the excavator may expedite that removal?
Just kind of maybe rake again.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time for either the contractor or for Parks and Rec.
If it's appropriate.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
we'll do the best we can.
That's all.
There may be a chance as well for some of those pavers to actually be repurposed at the project site as well. So.
Right.
Very good. Okay.
All right. Anything else from Mr. Davis?
Always learn anything start with an S count. Cost county's monies, sheriff department, solid waste, storms.
Oh, Commissioner.
That's a pretty good gauge right there, sir.
Scale high.
I'll add that to my rule book, sir. I sure will.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Davis, and thank you for everything that you do in your departments.
Sir. Thank you all for all your support.
Yes, sir. Yep. All right, so we're ready to start the first of 2 public hearings, it looks like.
Yeah, I think we can get through this rather quickly, and then you take your break.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right.
They are on page, they're on page 3, item 17 is the first one of your agenda. And Courtney already has the first one up on screen.
All right, Courtney, please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Gander, if you want to step up to the podium.
So this notice, the first notice of zoning change is for an ordinance to rezone 5± acres of land in section 33, township 8 south, range 8 west from R3 single family estate residential to R2 single family mobile home district. If you could see down here, the surrounding areas are about the same. They're all zoned for single family mobile home district and single family are in R1. So he's just trying to, his property has 2 different zones and he's just trying to get it zoned all equally, the same zone.
Okay. Commissioners, anyone have any questions for Mr. Gander on this here? All right, public comments. Is there anyone in the room that would like to comment public on this item before we potentially take any action today? Don't everybody raise your hand at once. What about online, sir?
Virtually, I have a hand raised and been raised for a while.
Okay.
Phone number 1549. I'm going to unmute you if you want to speak on this particular item. This is the only item you can speak on at this time. So let me click on that. And all right, phone number 15 ending in 1549. If you'd like to speak on mute, go ahead and unmute. Again, phone number ending in 1549. If you'd like to speak, go ahead and unmute. You're able to speak. All right, Mr. Chairman, I don't think this is the item they wanted to speak on.
Okay.
So.
All right. So, any discussion among the commissioners or pleasure of the board?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any more discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's a 5-0 vote. Please proceed, Courtney.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Gander. Next, we have an ordinance for Mr. Mashburn, and he is on the Zoom, Michael.
Okay. Kit, yes, let me unmute
Yes.
him and allow him to talk. Hold on 1 second. Okay, Mr. Mashburn, if you just unmute, in case the board needs to talk to you, for any questions they may have, you can go ahead and unmute, sir. It's, you tap the microphone icon on your smart device and you could be unmuted. And Courtney, you can go ahead and we'll see if he needs to speak.
Okay. So this one is zoning changes, actually neighboring the same property that we just rezoned. It's a 5± acre parcel of land in that same section in township, from R3 single family estate residential to R2 single family mobile home district. So it's the same kind of issue. They've got this big piece of property and they want to be able to, you know, utilize it. Hey, Kit, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I'm sorry.
Okay. So they're just trying to go from R3
property to our kids later on. Do they have something?
It's the same thing, ain't it?
Yeah, it is.
Pretty much the same thing.
Same
Yeah,
request.
it's right beside the other property that we just rezoned.
This is on the north side, correct, Courtney?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Mashburn? Seeing none, I'll call for public comment in the room. Anyone wishing to comment publicly on this item before we potentially take action? All right, sir, what about online?
Anybody online like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. Anyone like to speak on this particular item, please raise your hand. No hand raised via Zoom, Commissioner.
All right, pleasure of the board.
So move.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion, commissioners? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's a 5-0 vote, unanimous.
Thank you, Courtney.
No problem.
All right, and that concludes our public hearings. Correct?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
All right, let's take a 5-minute recess. Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now back in session. Up next is Ms. Pam Burnell, Emergency Management Director.
Let's see if, there we go, Jen.
Good morning, Commissioners. The only items, we have actually 2 action items on the board report for this morning. The first is we are requesting the board's approval and signing of the EMPA Emergency Preparedness and Assistance Grant. This is our state grant that we receive every year. This is for the fiscal year 22-23, and it's in the amount of $105,806.
Okay.
That what y'all get?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Could I ask, if we haven't, if we can amend your motions to include Attorney Schuler reviewing these contracts before we sign them?
Oh, yes, sorry, I'm in my motion to reflect, contingent upon Attorney Schuler reviewing the contracts.
All right. You
And I'll
your
amend my
second?
second to that point.
Any more discussion? Yes, sir.
Or is it the same as it was before, or did it go down?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the state grant that we receive every year. There's nothing you can change. If you want their money, you either sign it or you don't.
I understand that.
I understand, but I was trying to see that they go up or down.
No, sir, not on the state when they don't. On our federal grant, there's usually a little bit of a change in the amount, but we've not received that contract yet.
Okay.
Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. Please proceed, Jenny.
The next thing we have on our action items is we're requesting the board's approval and signing of the federal funded community development block grant, disaster recovery, hazard mitigation grant program match agreement. This is for the generators.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
It is.
So move contingent upon Attorney Schuler's review.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, 5-0. Anything else, Ms. Daniels?
No, sir, that's it for us for today.
All right, any board members have any questions for Ms. Burnell or Ms. Daniels?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
could you give us an update on our EOC, our new EOC, and where we're at with that?
At this time, we have sent in the markups to the EOC design, also showing the different, the size of the computer monitors that we're going to put in. You just need some of the FFA. And the FFA, they have sent a letter to the FFA, and we're waiting for some information from them also.
Thank you for that information.
Yes.
Any other questions, commissioners? Thank you all for everything you do to keep us ready to respond in the event we have a disaster here in the county.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep, have a good day. All right, Mr. Eric Lovestrand, Extension Office Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I don't have any action items for you today.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or concerns for Mr. Eric? Mr. Eric, thank you for everything you do. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right. Ms. Whitney Roundtree, Library Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Okay, a few informational items for you. The libraries have started a teen advisory board. By joining this board, local teens will now have the opportunity to make new friends, suggest materials for the library's collection, plan programs and events for teens, and earn community service hours. We've already had a few sign up. Their first meeting will be August 10th at 4 p.m. If anyone has any interested teens, can pick up and return to any library branch.
Okay.
All Wilderness Coast libraries will be joining the Panhandle Library Access Network's Overdrive Cooperative, Overdrive is our system that manages all our ebooks, and right now we have a collective catalog with all the Wilderness Coast libraries. By joining Panhandles, we'll have a much bigger pool with other libraries in the Panhandle. So this is going to greatly increase our patrons' access to digital materials while just covering the cost, so this won't affect our budgets. And then we also got a generous donation from the Trust of Marianne Shields. Aaron, did you want to talk about that at all?
Yes, actually, the amount that was awarded to us by the trust was, I believe it was $60,000 total. And Marianne Shields was a loyal library patron. You know, she always volunteered. She did a lot of work here at the Carabel Library. One thing that we'll be talking about during the budget process is how the library would like to use those funds. I know Whitney had actually mentioned doing some sort of computer lab update with also notation and ode to Marianne Shields and her service as well. So that's just something that we'll talk about during the budget workshop.
Okay. All right.
And then I've also concluded some stats for you. You can see our visitor count, our program attendance. We've also seen a great increase in material book checkouts. I think a lot of that is due to our incentive programs we have going this summer. And as you can see, we've got a lot of activities going on throughout July, so summer reading's going really well. Any questions for me?
Any questions, commissioners, this morning?
Yeah, how many kids been attending?
We had 7 children's programs in Carabel. We had 32 in attendance for those. And then we had 4 children's programs in East Point, and we had 42 attendance for those.
Ooh, that's good.
We've got some larger events planned this month, so I'm expecting those numbers to go up.
That's a good.
That's good.
That's a good number. Doing
Thank
good.
you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Ms. Roundtree, thank you for everything you do. Keep up the good
Thank
work.
you.
Yep. All right, up next, Mr. Ted Mosteller, Interim Airport Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners, staff, Ted Mosteller, Airport. I have no action items this morning. However, John is here to address some action items we have for the airport, and maybe Michael has something too. I'll stand by for that.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Ted at this time, or you're good? Thank you, Mr. Ted.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
got a question.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
You told us about them, something was leaking,
I'm sorry, sir, say again.
About the hangars?
the hangers.
Yeah.
The hangar roofs,
Yeah.
that will be addressed in the action items. We do have serious problems with the roof out there. There's only one building that possibly doesn't need some attention, and all the rest of them, the screws are rusting and running down the metal. So they need to have some immediate attention, or we're going to have some serious problems.
Did you have somebody to check them out?
We're working on that, sir.
Yeah, so, and John's gonna be, like Ted said, John is right behind him. He's gonna address how we're gonna deal with the FBO roof first, and then he's gonna kind of instruct us how we should move on with the other hangar roofs this morning. So that's part of John's report to you, sir.
Okay.
Oh, I would like to make one mention, if you don't mind, please. John Bone, some of you know, has departed Apalachicola Airport in his single-engine Cirrus aircraft, headed for Germany, and he will be participating in evacuees from Ukraine. So keep him in your prayers.
So, I'll ask you later. I was gonna ask, how long is it gonna take for him to get from?
I don't have the schedule, Michael. He was in Iceland, headed toward Iceland Saturday.
Wow.
So he's moving on.
I will. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Ted.
John Bone really brings a tremendous honor to Franklin County in the circumnavigation of the globe twice in that airplane.
Yes.
But most recently last year, and then here he goes on over to Germany. I think he's going to land in Poland ultimately to facilitate the removal and of supplies, or bringing in supplies
Yes.
for the Ukrainian effort, and taking some medical patients out of that area. Yeah,
He's brave.
really, what an honor.
I'll go to Atlanta in a single engine, but no further than there.
Yeah, right.
He's really good.
Wow, okay. Up next, AVCON, Mr. John Collins.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Collins at the AVCON. Since you really just brought up the hangar roof questions, we can cover that item first before moving on to the other two items. So a few months ago, I did get together with Mr. Mosteller at the airport. We went up on the roof of the FBO hangar. That's a large hangar right adjacent to the FBO office. And there's no question that the roof is beyond its useful life. The way that roof is just a screw-down roof, so there's screws all along the roof. There's screws that hold it down, and of course those have holes with little rubber grommets that seal up that hole. Over time, the rubber just breaks down, or the material breaks down. And so at this point, we have the best option for the county, it appears, is we've discussed this with the FDOT, with your main funding agency here at the airport. And typically the FDOT does not fund just typical maintenance projects. They view that as being a responsibility of the county, whether it's replacing lights, replacing, again, in this case, roofs. They don't typically pay for that. However, what we coordinated with them is we're going to improve the hangar by replacing the existing screw-down roof with a standing seam roof. It's a different type of roof. It's stronger. There's not nearly as many penetrations through the roof, so there's a lot less of a chance of the similar situation occurring in the future. Typically, a screw-down roof, you have about 30-year useful life. With a standing seam roof, you're looking at a 40 or 50-year life on the roof. So the FDOT, they agreed with us that they would fund a hangar roof upgrade project for the FBO hangar. And so on your agenda, in your agenda today, is a formal resolution for the county. Anytime you move money within your FDOT work program, the FDOT does request a formal resolution from the county. So this one is to move approximately $400,000 from a stormwater improvement project for this coming year to a new hangar roof improvement project. Now, we do not have quotes from contractors. The $400,000 is an estimate at this point, because what this project would include is not only a replacement of the metal roof, but also replacement of the insulation below the roof and about 10 to 20 feet down on the side of the hangar, because obviously whenever you have leaks, the insulation has gotten wet and it just breaks down. So the insulation really needs to be replaced as part of this roof project. So our request this morning is for the board to consider and approve the one-page resolution to move $400,000 from the stormwater improvement project to the new hangar improvement project, hangar roof improvement project.
Mr. Chairman, is Attorney Schuler, are you aware of this, and do you approve? Have you looked at the resolution?
I have not seen the resolution, Commissioner. So my recommendation would be to approve, subject to review, and if we take another break, I'll look at the resolution during the break.
Okay, I'll make that motion contingent upon Attorney Schuler's review.
Okay.
And I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt.
With comment.
All right, please proceed with your comment.
This transfer of monies is simply a temporary transfer as a placeholder for ultimately getting fully funded back from FDOT for this project, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't, what was the question?
We're going to transfer this money right now to begin to seed the project, but with the understanding that we're going to be fully refunded by FDOT for this project. Oh, I mean,
so the money that the DOT provides, if I'm understanding your question correctly, the county would pay for the work up front.
Pay up front.
And then you get reimbursed.
That's what I want to make
Aaron
sure
does an incredible job of keeping up with those reimbursements with the FDOT. And yes, you'd be reimbursed. Really, as soon as you approve that pay application and the county cuts a check, Aaron can immediately submit that reimbursement request to DOT and get that check cut pretty quickly.
Okay, good.
So I don't think Commissioner Bolt understand what we're doing. So what we're doing, Commissioner, if you do, just tell me, stop me. So what he's asking for, we're telling FDOT from all this money that they give us for the airport, we're going to use $400,000 for this project.
Yes.
So we're not really, it's not, the reimbursement thing is just on our end, but we're just directing them, this is how we want to use $400,000 of this grant fund that you're giving us.
Okay.
Just being specific, sir. So I hope that clarifies what you were asking.
Yep, it does.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
And also, I do want to clarify that with this funding, we would prepare bid documents specifying the work to be done, and we would publicly bid this project, get prices back, and come back before you again with the results of those bids.
Okay. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That
Good.
is unanimous.
Thank you. I have two more items. Again, I know you have a long agenda today, so I'll be brief, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Second item on the agenda is several months ago, this commission approved an FDOT grant for tree removal at the airport. As you're aware, there's several trees that have grown up on the north end of runway 18, and it's temporarily caused a closure of one of your 6 runways at the airport. So we've prepared bid documents. We've evaluated all the trees at the airport, and we have 12 different areas that we've identified for tree removal at the airport. So we've prepared bid documents identifying all these areas, with the first area, the primary focus is the area north of runway 18 that's causing the closure right now. So the DOT has provided, it's $150,000 for tree removal, and they've also said that, and we know the cost of all the tree removal at the airport would far exceed $150,000, but the DOT is on board with providing additional funding for additional tree removal once we get this first piece done. And so, again, what we've done is we have about 12 different areas that will be priced in this bid package. And so if we can quickly enough get the DOT to allocate additional funds, we may be able to award additional tree removal areas to the same contractor, not have to go out on the street for bid. So that would be the goal. So the request today is requesting approval to advertise this project for bid. We've already, again, the bid document's already completed, provided the county, but we're requesting permission to bid the project, and if we did, then the bids would be opened at the August 16th board meeting.
So move.
All right. Motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion, Commissioners? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you. And the last item on the agenda is a very similar item. We're requesting approval to advertise for bid the new fuel farm at the airport. The design documents have all been prepared in conjunction with Mr. Mosteller and also the FBO operator at the airport. We finalized the complete set of bid documents, and we're ready to advertise that for bid, again, on the same schedule as the tree clearing project. So we would advertise, I believe, next week in the newspaper, and we would also open bids at the August 16th board meeting.
So move.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. That's all my items for today.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. John at all? Sir, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes, sir. All right, Ms. Griffith, Fiscal Manager, Grants Coordinator, you are next.
First item, item A. Once again, the Alligator Drive Hurricane Repair Project is being affected by conditions beyond the control of the contractor. As part of the project includes the installation of vinyl sheet pile material along the north side of the road in addition to the stainless sheet pile wall along the Gulf. Utility poles and underground lines must be relocated. Duke Energy has been slow to relocate their power poles, junction boxes, and supply lines along the right-of-way, and the contractor is still struggling to get the necessary shipments of concrete for the cap. The attached change order number 3 will extend the substantial completion date to September 21st, 2022. Requesting board action to approve the attached change order number 3 with Anderson Columbia for the FEMA repairs of Alligator Drive.
So move.
No, second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Bolt, second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0.
Next, item B, attached are 2 change orders for the FEMA C30 West washouts project. Change order number 2 is a reduction of $35,906.67 in the contract price due to the reconciliation of materials with contract contingency, and change order number 3 extends the ready for final payment completion date to July 27, 2022. This project is mostly complete at this time, and an additional 30 days will allow for the contractor to permanently stabilize the side slopes of the project. The final pay request will not be released until the grassing is established and erosion concerns are addressed. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached change orders 2 and 3 for Pike Asphalt and Site Work LLC.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is unanimous.
The next item C, the E911 Director Renee Brandon has forwarded 2 grant agreements with additional terms and conditions. The term of the agreements were left off of the original grant agreements as sent by the state. The additional terms and conditions for State Grant Region 1 NG 911 Mapping Grant S17-21-02-56 has a project term of April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2026. The additional terms and conditions for State Spring Rural Grant has a project term of May 1st, 2022 through November 13th of 2023. Board action to approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached additional terms and conditions for the 2 E911 grants mentioned above.
And Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, on her original report, your notes, that was deferred until the next meeting, but I think she got the information late, so that's why she's bringing it up today.
Okay. Pleasure of the board. Did you make a motion, Commissioner Lockley?
Yes.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lockley to approve,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, Commissioners, next item is D. The Timber Island Bridge was inspected by FDOT and the report noted necessary repairs were needed to maintain the load ratings. Failure to perform the repairs could result in bridge closure or reduce weight limits on the bridge. Ferrovial Services contacted the road department in May with an $18,225 repair quote based upon the inspection report. Ferrovial is in the area now and was instructed to proceed with the repairs as they were necessary and addressed an immediate safety concern. The repair will include cleaning and sealing cracks up to 0.08 inches wide and span 2.9, cleaning and sealing the map cracks in the fire approach slab, removing dirt and debris from the bridge deck, patching any spalling in the bridge deck, and applying T70 methacrylate and seal the entire bridge. Board action to proceed with the emergency repairs needed at the Timber Island Bridge.
So move.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Next item E. Commissioner Ward met with Michael Ward of Duke Energy in regard to providing street lights for safety at busy school bus stops in District 5. Duke has submitted the attached estimates and the recurring charges are in line with other street lights in the county. There is a one-time installation expense of $1,428.20 to $2,778.76 per pole, and an estimated recurring electric charge of $6.42 per month per LED light. The county already has 2 lights in the area of Twin Lakes Road and Ridge, and Twin Lakes Road and Wilderness Road, but more lights are needed in the district. Commissioner Ward requests for lights to be added at the intersections of CC Land and Bryan Street, Buck Street and Ridge, Beacon Street and Lighthouse Road, and Frank McCamey Way and Lighthouse Road. Board action to approve the installation of necessary poles and lights at the 4 intersections mentioned above.
So move with comment.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Ward,
Second with comment.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Commissioner Ward, please proceed.
I just want the public to be aware, a lot of these lights were damaged with the fire, the Lime Rock fire, but I had some people reach out to me about safety. You know, it's dark at the bus stops. I had a longer list. I would like more lights to go out, but you know, with the cost, I couldn't foresee the cost. And the reason why that this cost is $1,400 to $2,000 something, that's because there are existing poles, but apparently it's a little bit more complicated than just going and putting a light out there. You have to have a transformer. It has to be the right kind of wattage for the light to support the LED. But I basically eliminated a lot of lights that I wanted for the cost reasoning, but also basically looked at bus stops that I thought were need of light, and so that's why I chose what I chose. If anybody in the community has any questions or concerns, they can reach out to me directly, but that's why the reasoning why I chose what I chose. So
if I can add to Commissioner Ward, this all started off because what she had me do is reach out to the superintendent and to the transportation manager, whatever that title is, and they sent us a list, and then she weeded through that list to see what she thought, and she actually went out there to see what she thought would be the most important spots based on what the school district sent us.
Why they send us a leave?
I asked for it.
I'm talking about, don't they put that school?
They're not. I hear what you're coming with, Commissioner Lockley. No, they're not going to request streetlights on their own. No.
Well, we still got. Well, I'm still with it.
Yeah.
I want the kids to be safe, but the school got to tighten up.
I hear you.
Commissioner Bolt, you had a comment?
Yeah, I think this is great. Safety almighty. And I want to copycat you in some of the areas of my district. And you know, I'm also reminded that there are special FDOT signs that say bus stop, and it has a logo of a bus and the flashing light of the bus that could be placed in that location with that light. And I'm wondering if we can get some of those signs in that location and others around the county. Just a thought. I'll work to pursue it.
I did, Mr. Chairman, I did actually go in my district to every light pole and got the number off the light pole, because it's what I had to do to figure out, you know, so that they could, it was basically weeding through the lights that were, especially with the Lime Rock fire, what were there, what were we paying for? Apparently we found out that I think we were paying for a light that didn't work, right? So it was just kind of trying to weed through all that, and I literally got out and looked at pretty much every single pole. It was labor and exhaustive, but I'm glad we did it. Like I said, I wish I could put more lights out there, but I couldn't foresee the cost on our taxpayers' burden to pay for all these lights. That's why I eliminated the list. You can ask Aaron, it was a long list, but
oh, yes.
I kind of eliminated a lot of stuff. But these are the ones, like I said, I thought were the most important and needed to be lit up, so that's why I chose what I chose.
Yeah. And it's something too, Michael, the list we're talking about is the list that we got from the school after we did some lights in East Point, we did some lights out in Commissioner Parrish's district going up Bluff Road, what we call Bluff Road.
Next is Commissioner Lockley. He
you know
wanted
what I mean?
the walking path that
Right.
he just put in
But
Appalachia.
we had asked the
That's
school,
next.
because we had talked about when we made our original motion, that we would have some contact with the school to see what we can do to make sure that the kids are taken care of, things are safe as possible, and it was a long list. I guess if you've never looked at it, you can't appreciate how many buses they have and how many stops they make.
Yeah.
It is more than a couple. So, you know, as we can work our way through them, I think that's prudent for us to do. It's only the only conversation I think we need to make sure we have with the school is that it's somehow not gonna be a bus stop that's in this spot now, and the next
Yes.
2 years from now, it's gonna be a quarter mile up the road.
Good point.
Kind of discussion, so.
And we did. That's another thing Commissioner Ward had to be judicial with, because they did warn us,
Yeah.
the schedule is this now.
Yes.
Next school year, it could change again. So she was trying to be very general in where she put the lights to
Right,
cover a
right.
broader area as possible, you know.
Sounds
So they
good?
have to change because of children grew up.
Right.
Yes.
and
Right.
leave.
Yeah, but they can still try to keep it in the same general area, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
close to the light, if it's possible. All right, any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
Good for you.
Next item is item F. At the June 7th meeting, bids were open to construct and install a 12-foot, 6-inch wide by 22-foot long modular scale station building at the Franklin County landfill. Only one bid was received from Quick Buildings LLC of Mobile, Alabama, in the amount of $81,784. The bid was released to the Solid Waste Director Fonda Davis and architect Doug Schuler for review. The architect did request that the vendor clarify in the bid transmittal that the plans would be signed and sealed by a Florida engineer and would meet all local building code requirements. The vendor has complied with this request, and the architect is satisfied with the proposal. Board action to issue a notice of award and subsequent purchase order to Quick Buildings LLC for the construction and installation of a modular scale station.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Next item is item G. This is just an informational item Dewberry Engineers has finished the preliminary design and cost estimate to be used in the construction grant application with the U.S. Treasury for the Restore program. The updated preliminary design includes the installation of over 4,675 linear feet of stormwater drainage pipes and inlets, the creation of a third retention pond to increase capacity, increases the size of existing outfalls, and resurfaces roadways in the areas of alteration. The preliminary cost estimate for this project is $4,499,100. In the attached schematic, areas with the shaded highlight indicate areas of resurfacing, and the pink line notates new stormwater pipes with corresponding inlets and connections. At this time, the county is still awaiting response from FDOT in regard to the right-of-way acquisition of the retention ponds along Franklin Boulevard before the design can advance further. And that concludes my report for informational items.
Anyone have any questions or concerns for Ms. Griffin at this time?
Were you going to go over I and J on that report, or just linear lines?
The Shields Library donation was actually covered by Whitney.
Okay.
And I was planning on going into more detail on that at my next report. However, we'll just cover it during the budget workshop since she brought it up today.
Okay.
Taxable is deferred until the next meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just thank you, Aaron, on the light stuff. I know I was sending you emails and it was kind of confusing at times, so thank you. And thank you, Michael, because I know you had a hand in all the numbers and stuff too, so thank y'all for helping me out with that.
All right. Mr. Morone, you're up next, sir.
All right, Commissioners. Item A of my report, at your May 17 workshop on beach parking, the board was in favor of two options to help solve the beach parking issues in Alligator Point. The first was the positioning of large boulders in strategic locations to avoid illegal parking as a short-term temporary solution, which seems to be working somewhat. The other option was the formation of a committee that would look at long-term solutions to properly handle beach parking on Alligator Point. Commissioner Bolt is ready to proceed with the formation of this committee and would like this board to authorize him to allow him to work with APTA and other area residents to present a list of 5 to 7 names that would serve on this committee. Once the committee members are appointed and given a mission statement by this board, the committee will have a series of meetings to create some long-term parking suggestions for your review, then present those suggestions perhaps in a workshop setting. Board action to authorize Commissioner Bull to create and submit a list of appointees for the committee to look at long-term solutions for beach parking in Alligator Drive. So Commissioner Bull will be creating this, getting a list together, present to the board as a whole, and you guys will could at that point look at, question, and appoint these members to this committee.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Lockley,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward.
Comment.
All right, please proceed.
I just wanted to make the board aware that Nanda and Rudy Ming are here, basically doing their internship, if you will. And so
The intern.
Mike Booters is here, all representing not only District 2, but the one and only Alligator Point. And I think that's so important to see this, if you will, observation, what's going on. And they are dedicated to help us in this parking project.
All right, any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, item B is about another committee, as the board is aware. Well, I'm sorry. Oh, Florida statute directs the Office of Broadband State Office to build and facilitate local technology planning teams representing cross sections of the community. There's been a lot of federal and state funding set aside for broadband. However, the creation of a local technology planning team, referred to as LTPT, is a necessary step so that Franklin County can tap into those funds to benefit its residents. Below the names I have thus far as appointees. However, Commissioner Bolt will need to select one of his 2 recommendations, and Commissioner Lockley will have to recommend an appointee from his district. Commissioner Lockley, I recommend that, I haven't talked to, well, I did talk to him a while back, David Walker, the CEO of Weems, because broadband is very, very important to Weems Hospital. So I think if you recommend him today, Commissioner, he would be willing to serve on this committee.
Okay, you want to? Okay.
Unless you have someone else, sir.
No, I ain't got no, but I recommend it. I just let them talk before I do this. Let them know.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead, I recommend.
If not, we'll bring it back. And Commissioner Bolt, you had submitted two names, Mrs. Middleton or Mrs. Hart. Which one would you
Well, that
prefer?
should be Tony Middleton.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
Not
problem.
Tony.
Yeah,
Clerk White said that in the email.
That's it, sure. And let me think about it for a bit, may I?
Okay, so I'll bring this back up at the next meeting, Commissioner
Okay.
Lockley. You can then talk to Mr. Walker, and Commissioner Bolt, you'll pick one of your names and let me know, all right?
No, I'm gonna use them, and if that don't work out, I can get one from the ABC school.
Okay.
Or both of them.
So,
Here.
I guess, let me ask this question. Does the board want to appoint the other four members today? We can start, and then Commissioner Bolt will decide at the next meeting, and we can add that member to the committee, because Commissioners, we're probably a little behind, and we really need to proceed.
Yeah, and you know, I can think, would it be too greedy to have two people from one district represented?
Yeah,
would-
I like to keep it clean, Commissioner, and keep a 5-member board, because then you have a couple staff members. If the board gets too big,
I see, staff
my
members
opinion,
added.
it gets a little,
I've got-
too many names, too many voices at the same.
I follow that now.
At the same time, so that's why I always try to keep it a 5-member plus, plus your staff that has to contribute to this.
Okay.
too.
I would like to recommend Mr. Tony Middleton.
Okay.
We'll just clear that up now.
And please apologize to him for me for.
It's okay,
that
thank you.
misspelling.
Yep.
Okay,
So,
we're ready to take action on it then, Michael?
yes, sir.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
So moved to approve these members.
All right, we have a motion to approve Pat O'Connell, Tony Middleton, David Walker, Kevin Ward, and Cheryl Frisch Middleton to our local technology planning team. Do we have a second? All right, second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Moving on to item C, attached to my report is the Career Source Gulf Coast 2022-2023 budget. As you're aware, state law requires approval of their budget by each county in the workforce area that they serve each year. I didn't put much here, Commissioners. Kim is on the line. If you need to ask any questions, this is a thing we do every single year. This is their budget, we don't commit any funds to their budget as this approval. This is just their budget. They have to tell each county how they're going to spend their budget.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, each of you attended the Florida Association of Counties annual conferences. You attended the many sessions offered at the conference. Are there any ideas or subjects that you would like to discuss and have staff research? I know you guys go to a lot of, you squeeze in a whole lot. I don't know how you do it. Well, I've been there, so I do know, but still. You guys have to bring, I know you guys have ideas you want us to look at, so.
Mr. Chairman, I just like to say a couple things. We did divide and conquer, as Chairman Jones
Yes.
stated. We kind of split up, although we did take some classes together. I always learn a lot. The discussions are always poignant, and I learn a lot. But moving forward, we were talking about a lot of stuff over there, one of which is infrastructure. Everybody saw how many people were in our area just in the past few days over the holiday. A lot of them were from out of town, and that's great. And a lot, like you said earlier, TDC brings them in, they can start paying for infrastructure, but they're required by Florida statute to only pay for certain things. But I will say this, I've been doing a lot of research, and I've said it in the past, we're gonna have to start looking at our long-term future for our county. It's growing by leaps and bounds. We need infrastructure. I know there's a lot of grants out there we can get infrastructure, but what we really need to look at, budget is coming up. I know that's a hot topic too, but we only have so much land that we can have people develop to get increase, to add to our ad valorem tax base. We really need to look at, there's so much unrealized revenue that we have with the state in the sales tax system. And I know Attorney Schuler and I talked about it before, and I think we're maxed out right now on the 1% for the surtax. But there are other unrealized tax revenues that we can get, such as a 9-cent fuel tax and a couple others that we maybe need to look at in the future to see about getting the sales tax. So not adding to our local taxpayers, but every time a tourist goes and buys a boogie board at a store, that sales tax to our county. If you go to Panama City or Tallahassee, you look at your receipt, you've got all these taxes on there, and that's to go to their infrastructure.
Yes.
And I just, moving forward, we really, really, really need to look at our infrastructure. I mean, it's almost like, you know, maximum occupancy of a building, X amount of people. We can't do that for our county. We can't say, oh, we've reached our limit. We can't allow anybody else in.
Yeah.
We need to prepare for it in the future. And this is gonna be probably future, maybe, I won't even be on the board at that time, probably when this happens, but we gotta start looking forward to that. And, I can send you the handbook, what we talked about earlier about the state timber. It's in that book, and you could just go in there and look. I was researching it yesterday. There's just so many unrealized revenues that we have that we can get. You just need to put on a referendum for the county, the people to vote on it. And like I said, it can go to our county coffers for infrastructure, for parks, for, you know, I'd like to see a big, you know, we were talking about the kids earlier. We have a bunch of kids that like sports, and as Commissioner Lockley stated, I like to see them out there playing sports than playing video games or whatever else. I'd like to see a big sports complex come eventually, maybe in the future with maybe a pool or something. But again, this is all stuff that we gotta have money to. Everybody's got great ideas of what they want. It's all a matter of how you pay for it and the land to put it on. That's the thing. So that's just food for thought. But maybe to research that a little bit further. And I know there was an opioid conference. I don't know if Chairman wants to add anything about that. And then what else? There was another one. I'm trying to remember. Oh, the American Relief Rescue Plan Act. That was interesting, and that was interesting how they talked about revenue loss. Like, you could do things, you just have to put it under certain criteria, you know, verbiage-wise, to be able to pay for stuff. But there's a lot of restrictions on that. So.
Yeah, they actually said that every county could claim a certain percentage of revenue loss, period. Just point blank period, that's what they're being told. Doesn't matter what the numbers are, they could actually claim it. So anyway, that's what a lot of counties are doing. And they're just trying to free up money to be used in any way they can use it, is what they're doing. One of the things that Commissioner Parrish and I were talking, I don't remember the name of the conference or the workshop we went to, but it was about money for stormwater improvements, especially inland stormwater stuff. And it was attached to sea level rise and all the other things going on that all coastal counties are experiencing. If you want to talk to them about that.
What they were actually referring to is like what we got going on over in between East Point and Carabel with Appalachia Regional Planning Council, where they're doing the shoreline protection measures. And this is all paid for through grants from DEP. And then they talk about inland flooding, which is caused by the severe storms are increasing. And you know, out in my area in Southland, we've had a severe flooding issue out there when we get 8 to 10 inches of rain. And I mentioned maybe we should have look at that and getting some funding to try to alleviate some of those flooding problems out there. Commissioner Jones said he had some issues also in East Point. But this is money that deals with climate change, as we said, and ARPC, and I'm sure you commissioners all got the same emails that I got from the recent ARPC meetings held in Tallahassee, and they're doing an assessment, which is required in order to apply for this money. You got to do an assessment of where your inland flooding issues are, along with your sea level rise protection, such as living shorelines and all. So that ARPC is already doing the assessment. So my question was, and I was thinking maybe we only got 2 months. You got to September to apply for this, so you ain't got time to go in and go out and bid to hire a contractor to come in and do your. I mean, you're gonna run out of time. So you know, maybe we need to get in contact with ARPC and see if this is part of the assessment they're doing. If it's not, we need to have them include this in the assessment, some of these inland flooding issues. And then maybe we could go through the Northwest Water Management District to actually implement some of these things so that you can move forward without having to go out for bid. And, you know, they probably got contractors already under contract. Now, the Northwest Florida Water Management District cannot directly apply for these funds, but they can apply on behalf of a particular county. But they don't get the funds. The money comes in the name of the county based on what the assessment shows and the remediation that you need to take to eliminate some of the flooding issues in this inland flooding. So I'd like to see that move forward.
Okay.
And have Commissioner Jones, which serves as our contact on ARPC, to inquire and see if it's something that they could handle for us in doing the assessments on these particular areas where we have flooding problems across the county, and see if they cannot be included for funding through DEP. But this really has to move because the deadlines are quickly approaching.
Okay.
So is that something we need to do by motion, or can we just do it by direction?
I think by direction,
That's
Commissioner.
fine.
No? Okay. No, Attorney Schuler didn't like that.
Mr. Chairman, for something of that magnitude, I would recommend there be an official action
Okay.
by the board.
Okay,
And I'd like to make that in form of a motion.
okay.
Second.
We have a motion by
comment.
Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Ward, and I thought I heard another one, Commissioner Bolt. So we're 3/5 there already.
There you go.
But the motion is to approach ARPC about performing this assessment on behalf of the county if it's not already included
Okay.
for stormwater and stuff. I will say, what was really encouraging about this workshop is they weren't just talking about planning dollars available. They were saying there were dollars available for implementation. So the state legislature, between money they receive from the federal government and money they set aside in this current budget that just got approved. Now, again, it's covering the whole state, but there was over $1 billion set aside in this that we're talking about for the state. So there's not only money to do the assessment, there's also, or the grant to do the assessment, but there are grants to actually do the work. So that was a positive.
And one more thing, if I might, Mr. Chairman, real quick, is that because we're under a population of 50,000,
Yes.
we don't have to make the 50% match.
That's right.
These
Zero.
funds that DEP have available, if you're over a population of 50,000, basically you're a physically constrained county, you don't have to make the 50% match, so it's 100% fundable. So the county was not obligated to make that 50% match. So that was another thing that really got the wheels turning as we talk about money and budgets. This is something that we can move forward on and not have to come up with a match for because we're under that population threshold.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm glad that y'all brought that up, because that was another thing, was the stormwater issues we have. I have a lot of areas in the districts we share that has a lot of stormwater drainage issues, so thank y'all for bringing that up.
Yeah, and Commissioner Parrish mentioned East Point. We have the same problem in St. George. It's a low-lying, island, barrier island, and a coastal community. There's always water everywhere, so there are plenty of opportunities here for us to apply for. Ms. Griffith, do you have something to add?
I did. At your last meeting, you all had authorized us submitting the grant application for the vulnerability assessment, which would be fully funded by DEP, and we did meet that grant deadline.
Okay,
It was
so
a
you've already
quick
done that.
turnaround, so
Okay.
yeah, that one's in the queue, and hopefully we'll get funded.
Okay, okay.
Question with this, and I'll just say it. So I'm thinking Leslie Street. Any way that the county could do this on behalf of the city, or we have to partners with the city, or because I guess what I'm asking, can we use the stormwater funding to repair Leslie Street because that was damaged by stormwater?
It would take a planning grant opportunity to do that, I think. But, because it probably was not added in what we turned in, I'm sure.
The city of Apalachicola would have, I think that they've already done their own vulnerability assessment.
So that
Yeah,
would
'cause
be,
they were ahead
was
of
that
us.
included in their plan? I guess
That's what I have to check. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and potentially, yeah, that would be great. I mean, I think they're gonna be at the same level we are. It's gonna be 100% grant funded,
Yeah.
should they get approved. So-
And Mr. Chairman, if I might, also in this particular situation we're talking about, it's all about raising your infrastructure, such as your pumping stations, like the one out here that we had to pay to have pumped out and all. You can actually get money to elevate that. So if you have another storm tidal surge, it don't inundate your pumping station, which is built on grade, this particular one. But that has to be applied for by the city because we're not in control of the pumping stations. And this is something the city of Apalachicola needs to apply for and move forward through this grant funding so that they can move forward on some of these issues, including Leslie Street. which is where the problem came with it, where it was really highlighted is when the storm surge come up and washed away the underneath underneath Leslie
Yeah.
Street.
They had already, was it Walton County? They said they'd already gotten an award. I think it was Walton
Oh,
County.
yeah.
They got almost 15 million in this, that they're gonna be getting. And they're actually using it opposite of trying to take care of just stormwater. They're actually using it to raise some of their roads up. Same thing, it's helping with the stormwater because the water's not staying in the road. So they had appropriate ditches and stuff, but the water was still staying in the road. So they're actually raising the profile of some of their roads with these dollars. So it's a pretty wide open program. It was worth going to Orlando just to find out about this one program.
And with, Mr. Chairman, and with that, it also helping with water quality.
Yep.
Because if your road's down here, all the asphalt, all the
That's
oil
right.
that's on the road just washes straight into your watershed. And in their case, I think it was Intercoastal Waterway. So there's a lot of advantages of this particular program. You just got to do the assessment, and you got to meet the requirements. And you know, it's all about climate change and sea level rise and all these other issues, intense storms that are coming more frequently, and that's what this whole program is about.
So, Ms. Griffin, what you were saying is we've already turned in an assessment. Do we need to ask ARPC if our stuff is still included in theirs? I know we have a motion on the table.
Yeah, I think we move forward with the motion, just double check, Commissioner.
Okay, all right.
I'm more comfortable that way.
All
yeah.
right, so any more discussion before we vote then? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous. I will say one more thing before we proceed that come up in several instances, a couple of things that come up, commissioners I was talking to across the state. Like the warden said, everybody is having problems with getting inmates if they're using inmate labor. The other thing is almost everyone I talk to, especially in the smaller counties, are getting, when they're putting stuff out to bid, they're receiving one bid. They're not receiving multiple.
Really?
Everybody's going through the same thing. The other thing that kept coming up that I think is something we haven't done, that's maybe a forward-looking approach, and it's gonna take a little bit of more than just saying we're gonna do it to get it done. I think we need to move forward and try to come up with maybe right after, I don't know how it works in conjunction with the budget, but the budget is a lot to consider. I think sometime in the near future, we need to try to hash through what it takes to create a strategic plan for Franklin County. Those are usually 5-year planning documents that are just like your budget. They're just a working document. It is not as steadfast and holding your foot to the line, but it is a document that we could potentially produce as other county governments do to let our residents know what we're going to be working on going forward. If it's the addition of streetlights for school bus stops, then we can put that on a 5-year plan and people can know what we are doing with their tax dollars. That's something that.
I support that.
Yeah.
That maybe,
You bet.
and it won't just happen.
Right,
It's
no.
gonna take a
No,
lot of
that's-
work.
it's called plan.
But I do think it'd be very, very integral to help us to move past a place of just continually putting out fires to actually saying this is our approach and this is where we're headed. So,
And to what you
Just a
said,
thought.
Commissioner Bolt, that help educates the
Sure.
public into what we're
Absolutely,
doing. Yeah.
I just had another comment, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay.
Yep.
I had an opportunity too, while in Orlando, to just relate to many commissioners, our colleagues around the state. And you know, they have, and I realize this is all based on population and all kinds of funding and everything, but relative to finding more money, they actually have either contracted services or dedicated employees that simply search, find opportunities, inform their board about a grant opportunity, and implement them. And
You're just
I'm-
talking about people with a lot more employees, but
Sure,
anyway. go ahead.
and that's exactly what I introduced, you know what I'm saying? But there may be a and again, I've had a conversation with Aaron, who has a huge amount of workload right now anyway, and very saturated with stuff. And this is just theory only, but to have something that complements all the work we're doing, what Aaron is doing, that it's like a contracted service that will help search, find opportunities, and implement, bring them to the board for us to talk about money that had been found, that then we could go forward and capture. I'd like to see that as a conversation continuing toward the future.
Well, I think we're doing good with what we have.
I do too,
As far as we're handling what's coming to us. I will say, though, that this board does have several decisions to make in the near future.
Yeah.
We're either going to increase staff or we're going to start dealing with more consultants.
Yes.
And that's just something we're going to have to
That's my
decide
thinking.
which way we want to go.
Okay.
You know, because that's just, you can only do what you can do. You can't put so much work on somebody that they cannot possibly move forward.
That's right.
So.
Mr. Chairman, I just got one more quick thing. I will say that, as Commissioner Bolt said, we did network with a lot of other commissioners, which we're legally okay to do.
We were.
You're not voting on anything in any other county.
And it's funny because even the small rural counties to the bigger counties, they all emphasize the same issues across the board. So it's not only our county facing these issues, it's everywhere. So.
Interesting.
And I will say on the last day, just to wrap it up, I am still serving as you all's representative on the FACT Board of Directors.
Yes.
For our now 13 county
Yeah.
Senate district, but and represent all 13 counties on that FACT Board of Directors. And I just want to make sure you guys are aware.
And
That
Mr.
was a
Chairman,
nice honor for our county, too.
we have, Franklin was one of only a handful, not even a lot, it was like, what, 3 or 4
There
other
weren't
counties
many.
that had 100% participation.
Yep.
So we were one of the only few counties that all the commissioners were present at the
Good.
conference.
That is very important.
Yep, doing our job and representing the people. Thank you
That's
for
Yeah.
mentioning that, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I have one action item that is not on the list. There was a check left off of the bill list in the amount of $9,333.33. I just need board action to pay that.
So moved.
check. Should have been on the list.
Second.
Oh. $9,438.33, sorry.
Okay.
I think I looked at the wrong note, yes.
All right, so we had a motion to approve by Commissioner Pierce, second by Commissioner Lockley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, back to my report, normal schedule. Item E. At your April 5th meeting, the board motioned to add senior management status to Mr. Charles B. Elliott. He's the county's Veteran Service Officer. Franklin County's capped at 10 senior management positions, and based on Ms. Erin Griffith's preliminary research, there are currently 9 positions that have been designated as senior management positions. So my recommendation is, Commission, a comprehensive look at positions currently designated versus current management positions without this designation is recommended for your review before we make any other designations. Basically, we have one empty slot right now. And I think we have some on the list that you guys may not, or you can actually free up if you want to. But I think we need to look at that because, one of the other reasons I say why is because let's take someone like your billing official. Your billing official is not designated senior management right now, but he manages your billing department, your zoning department, and now he's managing newly the code compliant department. So he's managing 3 departments and he doesn't have senior management. Another issue would be, you all know your planner, as we were talking about planning today, Mr. Currington is in drop. He is not, that position I don't think is currently designated, but that's something you might want to use as negotiations when you look towards a new planner. So again, I'm not saying no to Mr. Elliott. What I'm saying, I think and I'm saying this because you didn't give us this direction, this authority. We need to look at it comprehensively and come back with a recommendation to the board how we handle the senior management designation before approving anybody else. That's just basically my recommendation.
So basically, Mike, staff needs to do more research.
Yes.
And send us all a copy of people that probably deserve it but don't have it. There's only one spot
Exactly.
available.
That's-
I mean, y'all need to send us that information and let us look at it before. And I'm not comfortable discussing all this and calling out people's names.
Yes.
You know. So y'all need to get, I'm gonna make a motion to direct staff to do the research, give us the information so that we all know what we're talking about when we talk about it, and without having to expose, I guess, for lack of a better word, all these different individuals that we're talking about and decide, you know, which way you want to go. And you only got one designation left. Do you want to remove somebody? That's, to me, that's not a good idea because they've already been given this designation. To take somebody off and put somebody new on with this designation, I don't think is the right thing to do. But I knew there was only so many slots available, and I knew we were close to being maxed out. If you remember when this first came up, that was my statement. Or can we put anybody else in that classification? Because I knew we were very tight with that from the last designated person that we put in that classification. So y'all, I'm gonna make that motion that y'all get the information for us and get it to the commissioners on our iPads where we can see where we're at, what we're doing, and try to agree on who we think should be that last and final slot.
Because I want to repeat it, make sure I understand you right, Commissioner. So you made a motion to approve staff doing further research, compiling us a list of who is currently listed as senior management and names of others that maybe should be considered senior management for us to review.
Right.
Okay. All right, that is the motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner Ward. All right, please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of people getting it, but there's a lot of people not doing the work that the veteran man is. He's not sitting in that office doing nothing. Do you know how much money he's putting in this county? Do you know how much money coming from the VA in this county for veterans? It's right up to 10 million, it's more than $10 million or better. With benefits, it's way up to about $15 million. So, you holler about senior management? You're already doing the senior management. There's a lot of VA checks coming in, a lot of VA benefits coming in here. You got to look at that. That man ain't sitting in the office doing that. He working. And he working for your people. He fought for your country. For the ones who getting it, who didn't fight.
And to respond to Commissioner Locke, I want to be clear, I was not saying not to give it to him. I was not saying that he's not worthy of it. What I'm saying is that there are people, there are positions, let me stop saying people, Commissioner Parrish is right. There are positions on the list that may be vacant now that you might say, you know, we'll never give this position, that management again, so let's remove that one and add it back. I just think you need to look at the whole list so you're aware of what's on there, what should be on there, and then you make a decision on what you want to be. It's not, my intention is not to put Mr. Elliott on there. I just don't want you to fill the last slot without looking at the list entirely, is what I'm saying.
And you would actually have to have over 100 employees before you would be granted any additional slots. So this is a serious decision as far as just the structure of your personnel.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't trying to say who should or shouldn't be on there. All I was asking for was information.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's something we didn't know actually existed. The senior management department. Yes, sir.
Well, while you getting the information, would you put in to ask for how much the veteran administration is paying Franklin County, the people in Franklin, and with benefits and monies. And them people take that money and pay taxes. They do what they want.
So you want some VA statistics is what you're asking me for to go along with,
I want
okay.
the statistics. We know what's coming through the veteran administration to Appalachian School. And you got a lot of people, they don't say nothing, but that's how they paying their taxes.
Yeah. That should be something the Veteran Services already has if they're providing the service, and that, I mean, it shouldn't be hard for them to.
No, I think Charles can send it to me in an
They
email
got
in a
it
minute.
right over there.
Yeah, he has it over there. That's not a problem, Commissioner. That's easy.
the one. You can ship that to him right now and he'll tell you.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion and a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, Item F, it's time for your ethics class. With the ending of the legislative session and FAC summer conference that's behind you, I would like to schedule your 2022 ethics class. Would you look at your calendars and let me know if there are any Saturdays in August or September that would present a scheduled conflict? Once a date is set, I will invite your constitutional officers and commissioners from both cities to participate in the class. My other question was, I did not want to put it in July. We're already into July. I mean, so I just kind of said that would be bad. I'd like you guys to just look at your calendars for the next 2 months and give me any dates that you can't do it, then I'll narrow it down, or I'll send out a poll. The chairman just recommended I send a poll to each of you with some dates, you know, that you would, we'll do it on a Saturday, right in here like we usually do, and we'll get it done. All right? Commissioners, there are these informational items I need to state publicly. So Mr. Currington, Mr. Davis attended a pre-conference meeting for the Armory for the sprinkler system installation on Thursday, June 30th. Mr. Currington stated that Cook's Brothers Incorporated, that's the project contractor, plans to begin construction on Monday, July 11th, and based on the current schedule, the project should be completed by January 30th of next year. I'll continue to update the board as that project progresses. Keep our fingers crossed that we can get this done. And at some point as we get closer, I will be asking the board to authorize Attorney Schuler to create the MOU of some sort, because we want TDC to start managing the bookings, and Fonda will still be in charge of the Armory, maintaining it, but TDC will handle all bookings and scheduling, collect the money, and turn it over to the clerk's finance office for rentals. Next is the CRA reimbursement. So last week, the county received a check of $248,127 from the city of Apalachicola as the refund for CRA proceeds. As the board should be aware, the city of Apalachicola was not aware that their CRA expired prior to last year, so they should not have received those funds. The clerk's finance office is working with the State Department of DOR, Department of Revenue, to correctly code, that's a term I use loosely, these funds so they can be deposited into the county's general funds. No questions, good. So next, later this week, you're going to receive a draft copy of Rules of Procedures for your regular meetings. This was done for the most part, it was done by the chairman. He did a lot of research. Please review and send me any comments you may have regarding these rules. Chairman Jones would like the board to adopt a final version of these rules at an upcoming meeting. And Mr. Chairman, you jump in. But basically, what we're doing now, he just wants to codify it. Basically, we have it on paper of how we proceed with our meetings. You know, agendas, the procedures, motions, blah, 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 stuff like that. I'll send that to you guys, a PDF, to your email coming up. The Housing Summit meeting, that has been scheduled July 19th at 5 p.m. right here in this meeting room. Mrs. Cook has reached out to the sheriff, the superintendent of schools, Mr. David Walker. If there's any other community leader or group that you would like her to reach out to prior to this meeting to make sure she incorporates their questions or has answers to their questions at this summit, please let me know as soon as possible. And finally, this is something maybe if you guys have your own Facebook pages or social media pages you'd want to advertise, DOE wants everybody in the county, in all the counties throughout the state, to take this speed test. What they do, it's anonymous. They're not looking at your IP address per se or who you are. Attorney Schuler looks at me and smiles, but it's supposed to be an anonymous test that basically when someone takes the test on your iPad, your phone, whatever, they map that where you are. And so that lets them know where basically we need to spend funding in our county, throughout the state, for broadband. There's a whole bunch of broadband money out there, commissioners, and this is one way to help us tap into that thing. So I could pass on the links to you guys. The link is there. One link is there. I could just give you the one to that Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO special page, and then you could forward that to your constituents. The more people that do it, the better it is for Franklin County.
Yes, I actually posted that yesterday on Facebook and asked people to share it. So when you go to take the test, and I did it twice just so they would have the recorded data from my house, a couple of things. You can do it from any device. It doesn't have to be a computer. It can be your cell phone, it can be your iPad, whatever you have. And when you go to, before you take the test, you can tell them you want to provide your specific address, or you want to just give them partial, like it'll say it was done on your street, but not your house. So it's not necessarily going to collect exact data from you, but it will get in your area what kind of availability you have for broadband in your test. It will send them your test results and begin to build out this map. And there's actually a way you can also go on DO's website and actually view the map as it gets populated.
Good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Michael, could you add this to the Franklin County website so we could just refer
I
people
will.
to that?
Good idea.
um,
I will.
In addition to? Thank you.
Commissioner, that's all I have for you this morning.
Does anyone have anything for Mr. Morone?
Yeah, Mike, one more thing to add on that veteran thing.
Mm-hmm.
See if there a preference, because veterans are supposed to have a preference
Okay.
when they apply for jobs and different stuff like that.
I will, because
It's a funny, I know.
I think there are a list of requirements. Is it required, Aaron, suggestions, what it is as to
There
what?
is requirements, actually by the Florida Retirement System for a senior management position to be designated as such. It's basically,
I will,
employers must publish a notice of intent once a week for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper of general circulation before designating a position to be included. Each designated position must be a non-elective managerial or policy-making position filled by an employee who is not subject to a continuing contract and serves at the pleasure of the employer without civil service protection, and filled by an employee who is head of an organizational unit or has responsibility to affect or recommend personnel, budget, expenditure, or policy decisions in the areas of responsibility. To designate a local agency position, the employer must complete and submit Form SMSD-1, designating the position to the senior management service class.
So,
There are
I
some
will, sir.
requirements on their side as well.
So, Mr. Chairman, so when y'all coming back with this information, you gonna say, well, this person qualifies under what you just read us, this person doesn't? So we know
Yeah.
that they meet the qualification?
We can do that. I mean, another thing, there's also a cost element. You know, the difference in the retirement contribution rates for a regular class person is like 10.82%.
Right.
To designate a position as senior management, that's like a 27% contribution rate for FRS retirement. So that's something that definitely, you know, should weigh heavily.
But what you just read out, I'm not gonna know if you just send me names, if this person qualifies or that person qualifies. Do they statutorily meet the qualifications is what I'm asking.
And it's not necessarily gonna be names, it would be based on positions.
Right.
You know, so that's,
Right. I mean, you're talking about managing employees and all this. I mean, I don't know if each one of those names that you send me or positions you send me are actually gonna make the qualify. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How do we know that without without over in parentheses it says, you know, based on this or that?
All right. Anything else from Mr. Morone? He's got a long notebook with him and 2 good pens. I'm playing. Okay, thank you, sir. Attorney Schuler?
Commissioners, I have reviewed the resolution on the airport that was presented this morning. The resolution itself does accurately reflect what was represented. They are reducing the $600,000 stormwater and drainage grant by $400,000, so it will be $200,000 to answer your question, Commissioner. Left in the stormwater and drainage improvements fund. Then the $400,000 will be applied to the hangar roof upgrades. Essentially, the resolution in your action authorizes Mr. Mosteller to negotiate those amendments, which will then be brought back to you for further board action. So with that, I would recommend that the chairman sign the resolution, and unless the board has any questions for me, that ends my report. 30 seconds.
That's pretty good.
Show off.
I've done divorces in 2 minutes.
Wow. Just one other comment. Attorney Schuler, we may have talked about this before, relative to the ordinance relative to the turtle issues around our county. Can we be sure that that ordinance uniformly includes all beaches in Franklin County as to leave no trace?
Yes, sir, that is on my list of things
Okay.
to do. There was insufficient time to advertise that ordinance from the last meeting until this meeting because it's a weekly publication.
Okay.
And I missed the publication deadline because y'all authorized it on Tuesday. The paper publishes on Thursday.
Okay.
They had already essentially formatted the newspaper by Tuesday afternoon, so
No problem.
it will be on an upcoming meeting, Commissioner.
Then another question, have you heard anything from the Florida Firefighters Association as to when they'll come to do their consultation?
We are having a phone conference tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Okay.
to have that exact discussion. Just last week with, I guess, everyone's holiday schedules, we just could not get you
Okay.
know, all the people in the same room at the same time, so to speak.
Okay. That's all I had.
Anyone else have anything for Attorney Schuler? Okay, any commissioner comments today? I'm commented, I don't know about y'all.
Just one particular comment. It's relative to Lanark Village and this unique housing situation that we have in that special area of district between Parker and Heffernan, and it's circuitous down into Norman. There is a real potential concern for life, health, and safety in that area where so many people are embedded in these rows of apartments along that area. There has been 2 911 calls that have been delayed in finding people because the addresses were confusing. I'd like to consider a formal review of that area for the purpose of putting up directional signage for life, health, and safety issues. And I'm just wanting to throw out the idea that perhaps an engineering company like Dewberry could come in and give us an organized outcome on how we put signage up that EMTs and firefighters and so on can find. This is row 13, apartment number 1 through 8. And it's easily found in the daytime, in the nighttime. And I'm bringing this up for discussion, and we can continue the discussion, but I'd like to see if we can look at it formally. I just wanted to bring that public.
I know that that should be covered by 911. I mean, they're supposed to have it all mapped out as far as I understand. But I mean, I could be wrong.
understand, but it's apparently, there is some impairment there.
Okay.
Well, you have to.
What are your
Mr.
thoughts?
Chairman, you have to mark your own property.
Yes, you do.
You gotta put your number on your property, whether it's apartment B, Avenue G.
We do.
You have to do that. Mine's 108 Long Road. Well, I gotta put out there 108, and it's on the
Yep.
side of my house.
Yeah,
So they know where you live. That's a personal responsibility.
It
That's
is.
not for an engineer to do. And you get an address, if you request an address, which I get my mail at my house, they the ones, the county gives you what your address is, but you gotta put it on your own, box where you get your mail. You have to do, I mean, it's a certain amount of personal responsibility that goes with
There
that,
is.
not a county responsibility. It's not the county's responsibility to put your street number in your
You're right.
apartment, you know, all that stuff is your responsibility.
Yeah,
It is
well-
mine. Nobody's ever come and done my house or done my post office box, you know what I'm saying? So you have to find out what your address is, and then you gotta post that where these, fire trucks, ambulances, whatever can find your place. Also, where the post office knows where to deliver your mail. If you don't get it at the post office, you get it at the street address. All that doesn't require an engineer. I mean, I don't understand, Commissioner Bowe, I understand the apartment issue. These are old barracks that you're talking about that have been refurbished that people live in.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of them catches fire, it's very possible that they all burn up
Mm-hmm.
because they got that closeness there together, and they weren't built to Florida codes back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're still there, then you don't have to. I guess you don't have to bring them up, but you'll never be able to allow them to build you that without a firewall in there and all this other stuff. I understand what you're saying because we've been dealing with this for years, but as far as the marking and people being able to find them if they inside with a heart attack or whatever, you got to mark all that stuff yourself. If you put it on a post or you you find some way to, you can have those signs printed, you know, that you drive down in the yard right in front of your driveway that says this apartment B of this particular street, or, you know, so I mean, some of that stuff has to be done as an individual's responsibility.
It might could be something that we could do, because I know we had a discussion a while back, relative to like locations of fire hydrants. And we talked about potentially adding a layer on our GIS map. So maybe just in potentially, especially in places like that where those old barracks are, maybe we could have a GIS map done through Regional Planning Council. That way, when 911 receives the call, they can make sure and tell those that are dispatched to the call exactly where they're going.
The third department
You know
or the
what I mean?
fourth department. You know.
Yeah,
If it's
Commissioner,
possible.
Commissioner, I was gonna recommend Commissioner Bolt that this is a conversation you ask the sheriff you can have with his dispatch coordinator, what
Okay.
is Renee, you
Okay.
know, and, cause she probably have way better recommendations than we would as
All
how
right.
it needs to be
Right.
done, because I do think it needs to be more of a, I'm with you, Mr. Chairman, more of a GIS electronic way to find it rather than look, cause you could drive around the whole neighborhood looking for a sign.
That could be a modern way of doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, a modern way. I'll take your phrase and say,
All right.
I think that's the way to go, sir.
Okay, and that's
Yeah.
more system specific.
And
the system we
everybody
have.
works off of that one GIS,
Okay.
all emergency
Well,
services.
That's
yeah, because they're
news.
the ones dispatching.
Yes.
They're the ones
Okay.
telling the emergency service who's needed and where they're needed at.
Okay,
So maybe we can address it
All
that
right,
way.
that's good.
But again, it'd probably be better to talk to Ms. Brandon,
I will.
get her
Yeah.
recommendation, and we can help facilitate.
Appreciate that resource.
One
Okay.
thing to do, what would help, a lot of these houses, you can't see the number. I mean, they don't have a number.
That's my point.
Yeah, they don't have a number. But I like going down that, if you go down 12th Street, that project, they got their numbers on the light.
They sure
Got the
do.
light on.
They sure do. Yeah.
And I got one of them too, but some of them got them on the mailbox, but some of these houses not marked, and they should, I think. We can require them to have a marking, so in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't, I don't know whether we, and then I don't know whether we can do that.
Yeah.
But that would be nice if they would have these numbers for the ones who don't get it. If we can require them to do it, that would eliminate some of that problem.
I'm sure the problem
Alleviate.
is the one like in the middle, you know, it's
Right.
kind of hard driving to see that number, but if it's all done through GIS, it's just like how you type in an address
Yeah.
to go to find where a conference is, it'll be the same.
That's-
Yeah.
that-
Basically,
It's
that's the way
already-
to do
it's
it.
there.
That's a good keyword
It's there.
resource.
Yeah,
I like
It's
Mr.
there
Chairman.
on
Yes.
9/11 got it,
yeah.
but for some reason, I don't.
If I might, Ms. Renee Brandon, I believe it was the last month or so, brought an amendment to the 911 system, a couple of amendments, one of which was a software upgrade, I believe, that was going to basically geolocate the source of the 911 call. So in your conversation with the sheriff's department, you can ask, because I don't know how they can translate that GIS location of the 911 call and then translate that into like a GPS coordinate to the EMTs or the emergency responders, but
Okay.
that would seem logical. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to be able to tell where the 911 call is coming from. So I think they're already on top of that at the sheriff's department, is what I'm telling you,
That'd
sir.
be good.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem. Any other commissioner comments? All right, meeting adjourned.